Well, I'd best get myself started. I've just had to reinstall OBS from scratch, as this is a new computer image from the last time I did this, so apologies in advance for anything that isn't working. I'll be looking as best I can at the stream information to see whether or not I've got all the weird and wonderful settings set correctly. And I think this is the first time I've actually put myself in the bottom, so if I'm not visible or if it's a silly position, let me know and I'll play around with the... Oh, I'm at the top, aren't I? Yeah, I remember I changed this at the last minute, so I think I'm up here somewhere. And font sizes and everything are probably not set right. And I'd forgotten that how much work and effort it is when you're trying to code and talk at the same time, so this may be only a couple of hours long. I have this whole week off so that I can work on Compiler Explorer, and I was planning on streaming a bit of it because it's always fun and it makes you feel slightly less alone than sitting in your own talking to yourself anyway. You might as well record it and broadcast it to the world. My first plan for today is to look into some issues that we've been having. Oh, not really issues, but a story. We've been adding compilers for a long time to Compiler Explorer, and in fact, how many have we got now? We can do HTTPS, this is curl here. Hopefully you can read this, godbolt.org, API compilers. You can see my shellers. I've done this a few times before. So if we just grab the compilers list here, we get a nice list of all the compilers that we have, and then I can just pipe that through word count, and you can see that we have 1,246 different compilers. That is a non-trivial number of compilers, as I'm sure you'll appreciate. It's a kind of cheat count. It's not really a fair count because we count some of the compilers, some of the physically installed compilers more than once. For example, GCC is installed once and we get the C version of it and the C++ version of it. But nonetheless, we've got 1,200 compilers to deal with. And when Compiler Explorer starts up, if I go to cd dev personal CE, and then CE, Compiler Explorer in here. If I do make dev, which is how I normally run this thing, you can see it does a whole bunch of nonsense, and then in a second it will, drum roll, it'll start running all of the compilers, and it runs each compiler in turn. First of all, to see if it is actually installed, and a lot of these I don't have installed on my local machine here, but also to get their -- help and their -- version and all those good things. And that allows us to put the little bit of information at the bottom of the web page, if you've ever noticed, or I've realized that in order to hide some of my PII, I've got my computer set up with the monitors the other way around than I'm used to. So yeah, you can see it here. It is running all those compilers and saying they're ready, they're ready, 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 ready. Now, if you've ever run 1,200 executables back to back, you'll know that there's not really much you can do. It takes a while. And we run them multiple times sometimes because we need to be able to do help and -- version and -- help targets and a few other bits and pieces depending on which compiler it is. So these I all have installed locally on this computer, and I've only got 344 of them, it seems. And that took just over a minute. And so startup time's a problem. We have 1,200 on the live site, and all of those compilers are stored on a network drive. So it takes a lot longer. And so we have got various things to speed up that process. And what I want to do is optimize that for two reasons. One reason is that we can't scale very well at the moment. It takes like 3 minutes to start up a new instance. So if we get busy for whatever reason, then we add new instances to handle the load on the site, but if it takes them 3 or 4 minutes to start up, then obviously by the time they've started up, maybe the busy period is over, and that in the meanwhile everyone's had to wait all that time, so we don't want that. The second thing is, one of the things we did to speed things up was to have a build step that kind of does this and then saves the results away, and then we load that up instead. That speeds up things a lot, but it means that we now have a build step that takes a lot longer, and for various reasons, sensible reasons, that process takes around 20 minutes. And every time I want to do a site update, if I have to wait for that stage, that process to go, then it means that there's at least 20 to 30 minutes before I can push a new version of the code. And selfishly, I want that to be faster. My daily commute is of the region of 25 to 30 minutes on a train, and that means that pre this change, I was able to get an update out and start the update on the train. By the time I got to the end of the journey, I was pretty confident that the site had updated and everything was healthy again. And our process involves us pushing to a staging site and checking there first, so that we don't actually break the live site. And now it's almost too long for me to get in, and so oftentimes I have to rush to work and finish off the site update from my desk at work, which is not a good look. So I want to speed that up for that reason, amongst other things, and make it so that I can deploy with confidence, or indeed anyone of the team. It's not just me that develops and keeps a compiler explorer going. There's a team of dedicated folks who help me out, which is wonderful. Okay, so this is the story so far. We have 1,200 of these compilers to deal with, and if I show you how we do this, we've got, I'll just look at these dependabot alerts in our infra repo. So this is probably too small to see, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit and hope that I'm not going to expose any, again, PII. Where are we? Actions. So we have these actions that we can run, these GitHub Actions, when it loads up. So one thing we do is we squashify the compilers, which is a whole multi-day thing to describe and explain. It is where are we? Compiler discovery. This is the step that runs and takes 18 odd minutes, and it runs all the compilers and gets their versions and then saves it out. Now, the reason that this is slower than normal is that it doesn't use any caching. As you might be aware, most of the work that we would do if we were running --help on a compiler would be the same every time, unless the compiler binary itself changes, which it doesn't really happen. We tend not to do that, except for the trunk builds of things, which we update daily. So we should be able to cache the results of having run --version, and one of our contributors made that change, but there was a problem, as yet undiagnosed problem, relating to running too many versions of Java at once. So I want to look into that, maybe undo and unpick that process as well. Just sort of to, while we're here doing a bit of a tour, we've got Grafana. I can show you some of the stats right now of our running system. And so to give a sort of idea about what an average Monday morning Chicago time is, we are running 6 instances at the moment. So this is the green line here, which is obviously too small for you to see, I'm sure. And that's fairly typical. In fact, we've been running 6 instances most of the night. And then our startup duration down here, if I view this one graph here, this is a cluster of how long it takes our process to start up. The green dots are how long does the actual machine take to start up. When we ask Amazon to say, hey, give me a new machine, this is how long the operating system takes to get to the point where it's starting. And down here on these yellow bits, once I added a bit more work, I broke it into how long does Compiler Explorer take to start up. And you can see the yellow dot here sometimes takes 1 minute, sometimes it takes 32 seconds, which is what it should be like. It should just be like almost instant if it's loading that file that we've pre-prepared. The operating system startup time is different again. Mostly it takes a while for the operating system to start up because we're mounting all of those compilers through the squashfs stuff, which again I said I wasn't going to go into just now. But if you've got questions, put them in the chat. I'm assuming you can even hear me. According to YouTube, everything says it's excellent condition and I'm online, but who knows? So, getting back to the meat of it, I'm going to fire up Intellij, which is my preferred IDE for developing Compiler Explorer. Other IDEs are available. Sometimes I use VS Code. I'm just more familiar with this. It's the JetBrains suite of tools are under my fingertips all day at work. I use CLine when I'm doing C++, PyCharm when I'm using Python. They are not sponsoring me, so this is just my personal opinion. VS Code is getting better and better as well. It's just I prefer a few more batteries included than you get by default. So here we are loading up the infra repository, which I don't think I want. So yeah, full disclosure, I haven't really thought through how this is going to go. Let me open up Compiler Explorer here. Hopefully this font size is big enough. Thank you for the confirmation that the audio is good as well. That's great news. And I've put this on not the lowest latency settings because I wanted to keep enough quality to be able to actually run my screen at its almost normal resolution. So comments on the font size appreciated, particularly in the IDE. In fact, I think preemptively I'm going to bump the IDE size. So let's go to font size. Oh, my computer is struggling a little bit. There is a way to find it. Font size, settings, appearance. Yes, here we go. No, see, that's not the right one. Font size. General. Is it this one? I didn't think it was this one. There is definitely a place. There it is. That's the one I wanted. So let's go to 28. And then the IDE itself might not be visible, but the main thing is to be able to see the code. So yeah, I was looking at this a little bit yesterday, although I'm protesting that I haven't thought too much about it. Now we have a whole bunch of caching in Compiler Explorer, and in fact, if I Alt-Tab back over to the dashboard and come back over here, this shows us the cache hit rate. We have multiple caches. We have in-memory caches, so that if a node is asked to do the same compilation twice, then it just returns something it did earlier. We have S3 based caching, so we take the hash of the input and we look for a file on S3 so that even if a different physical computer responds to a query, then we don't have to do the work twice under some circumstances. And then actually the JavaScript client that you run when you're on the Compiler Explorer website does its own internal caching too. This is mainly so that we can sustain things where if someone cool and interesting shares a Compiler Explorer link on Twitter and everyone goes and clicks it, then we don't have to keep compiling that same thing over and over again. We hit the cache. And oftentimes, actually, if I go back in history, let's do the last 7 days of the cache hits. There are times when weird things happen, like this huge spike over here. And some of these spikes here are when either somebody has shared something on Twitter and it sort of hit a lot, or somebody has done something silly with a sort of mechanical program and is like curling a response over and over again and getting the same answer over and over again. So that protects us a little bit from DOSs. Okay, so we have lots of caches, and we have a specific cache for running the compilers for the -- version. So when we run them at startup, we know that there is no file input. There's nothing to send to them. It's just purely hermetic. And the only thing that we should depend on is the arguments we pass to the compiler and the version of the compiler itself, like literally the modification time of that compiler. So that's why we have a slightly different execution system for that. So now you're going to watch me trying to remember how this all works. This file here is our sort of base class for all the compilers on the server side. So everything we've got in Compiler Explorer is written in Node, and we are slowly moving from JavaScript to TypeScript. And actually that reminds me, I should probably pull the latest version of the code. Where is my shell? It's here. Git pull. Gosh, my computer is slow. Obviously doing all this video compositing and whatnot is hurting it. Okay, we're already up to date, which is great. Why are you angry? Argument type is not it. Well, we'll have to deal with that. That's a different thing. So this base compiler, everything inherits from this. So there's a lot of questionable design on my part. But we, for what it's worth, we have quite a traditional OO version of how our various compilers fit together. So we have base compiler, and then for all the different types of compilers, and there's a few hundred of them here. You can see, a few tens of them on the left-hand side here. We've got things, like here's the specialization for how to run GCC. Here's the decompiler, here's the circle compiler, and most of these are tiny. So here's the circle compiler as an example. It mostly extends the base compiler and just tweaks a few things that are different for running circle. But the base compiler supplies some of these cache abilities. So exec compiler cached gives us a way of running the compiler with no file inputs, very specially, and using a caching system. Now our caching system is very configurable so that when you're running locally, you don't have to use the caches that we use, and indeed you can't use. So let's have a look at the code. Compiler args options. If there's no options, this is a classic JavaScript. This is an optional parameter, and this is the default for that optional parameter. So no timeout, and get the library path. The key is get compiler cache key, which is this function up here. And so again, this is now what the key that we're going to look up in our cache to see if we need to run this again. And it takes the M time, it takes the compile. So this is the M time of what is this M time? This.m time of the compiler itself. Yes, this is a compiler, right? So this is the M time is the modification time. So let's go and see where that comes from. This.m time equals null. Suspicious. When does this get updated? Initialize. So after initialize has been called, the M time is set. Now that is interesting. I wonder if that explains some of the bugs that we've been having along the way. The old classic, maybe M time has not been set yet by this time. I don't think that's true. Maybe I should add an assertion for this, but I suspect that in fact the caching stuff is used in this function somewhere. We'll follow it along. In fact, what we're going to do, so I'm going to set this up, get rid of, so I'm just going to run it in the debugger because that's how I roll. I don't remember how this works. I don't have to remember how it works, luckily, because I can ask the computer how it works. So let's have a look at get, what was it? Get key. No, what kind of key was it? Oh darn it, I've already forgotten. It's too early in the morning and I haven't quite finished my coffee yet. Somewhere in here was that. You get exposed to everything here. Get cache key, that's different. That's a cache for like an actual compilation which takes all these other things. So it was get compiler cache key something or other. Gosh, I can't believe how appalling I am at this. Okay. All right, let's start at the top. It was near the top, wasn't it? Get compiler. Here we are. All right. Get compiler cache key. Cache key. All right, I'm going to put a breakpoint in both these locations, and we're just going to run the application. And I've just got it set to C++. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. And I should really find out where this YouTube stream is at, because although I have it on my screen over here, I should probably share it somewhere else. Put it in the Discord. Okay, so I've already had a breakpoint from before. This is in the execute function. We'll come back to why that breakpoint was there. So I did do a little bit of pre-gaming, as it were. Okay, so exec compiler cache. Now the important thing here for me is the compiler.m time set. Now I can go over here into the debugger console, of course, and I can actually type this. What is this? Oh no, apparently I can't type that. Why are you not working? Well, all right, my debugger is not going to help me out as much as I would like, and this font size is far too small down here. I'm opening it up down here, and you can see that there's like lots of red gibberish. M time is null here. Well, isn't that interesting? Isn't that a fun thing? So we've already got an issue where we are trying to create the compiler, and it hasn't been initialized yet. So we don't know what the M time is. And it looks like we're already constructing it. I see something in the constructor is running before we've called initialize. And so default compiler extends base compiler, blah. I see. So here we are in the constructor, and we're running a function that relies on the M time being set. So we don't know the M time. And the important thing about this is we don't know the M time because we're trying to construct them to find out. We don't know yet. What? Okay, so there is part one of the problems. So at this point, whatever this is going to run is going to not have an appropriate cache time. Now, as it happens, obviously, if other things run with an M time of null, then they will match, but that's not the intention of this. The intention here is that we should be able to replace the compiler and have it work. So that's bug number one. So let me write that down because I am sieve for brain. And of course, if I'd have thought about this, I'd have brought some paper. So I will use the classic storage system for spare paper, which is the printer right next to me. So the first thing we have is the M time is null. So for what it's worth, this is not a problem with the site right now because we actually have got effectively this particular cache disabled. But somewhere along the lines, part of this maybe comes down to the fact that the reason it was disabled is that it wasn't working very well. I ran locally and it seemed to work, but I could see that a problem like this might crop up. Okay, so here we are with this.mtime is null. All right, we're going to have another one where this.mtime. Oh, now we have an mtime. So that is going to work for this one, and now this is because we're in initialize itself. Got it. So it seems like the contract, the implied contract, is that you can't do anything. You can't run something in your constructor. You have to do it in the initialize method, which kind of makes sense. Because if you're running something, then you should really be using the async stuff. And you can't do anything asynchronous in whatever language this is, JavaScript, if you aren't in a regular async function instead of a not async constructor. You can't have async constructors, which is why there's this async initialize separate method. So that is something we can fix, hopefully. And then we're getting all these keys, lots of things are going on. How wonderful. Nothing's going to hit the cache because I have no cache configured. Is that true? I don't know actually if it is. So Compiler Explorer is configured by a whole bunch of configuration files. There are thousands of them. They have a strange property to them that they are effectively like configuration type dot environment dot properties, where environment is either defaults to pick up defaults or a specific named environment, like we have Amazon is our production environment, or local. And if you have a local file, that takes precedence over anything it was found in the other two files. Oh, my cat is around. There she is. So I have a lot of local files here. Now, local files are marked as git ignore so that you can always override things without actually having to check or the worry of checking in things that are local to your own machine into source control. And I have overridden the Compiler Explorer local properties here, somewhere in here, compiler cache config. This is how we configure that compiler cache. And this compiler cache, again, is like the compiler version and help and all that kind of initialization cache, separate from the compilation cache we use to compile everything for users once we're up and running, excuse me. And there's a sort of syntax to this type of thing here. This is saying use an on disk cache, and I've got temp C compiler cache, and I say, you know, use a gig. This is in megabytes. So at the moment I am actually doing compilation there. And if we look in my temp compiler cache, wherever the heck it is, CE compiler cache, there's a bunch of files in here which contain the results. And in fact, if I look at one of them, I happen to know that they are in there we are, just any one of these, less minus R. So this is the result of running one of the compilers -- help or whatever it's got. You know, it was okay, everything was groovy. The stood out was this giant thing that's going to be parsed by code, and it took 202 milliseconds. All right, brilliant. So we know that we are caching. I can disable that now if I wanted to do some tests for how long it's taking. And the hope here is that we're going to get something where we can use a compiler cache to accelerate the process of finding compilers at startup again and sort of debug the issue. Then we can make a call about how or whether we should be using the same approach in our discovery process, or whether by fixing this we can actually sidestep our discovery process. Now, the discovery process has some other plus points. It keeps things very stable, so I don't want to just disregard it, but it is extra complication and time on startup, and we can use different strategies here to do this. Now, so I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to look at this and make sure that the mtime bug is fixed, and just develop confidence that there aren't any sort of strange backdoors where there are things being run that aren't going through this cache during startup. Then I would like to take our existing discovery process and try and get it running on the infrastructure that we have for our CI builds. At the moment, there's a very special case thing that's done for our discovery builds. We actually use like a compiler explorer node in a sort of special configuration just to start up the compiler explorer and run this process and then shut down. And that takes a little bit of time. It's a bit more awkwardness in terms of like our infrastructural setup. We actually do have our own continuous integration, continuous deployment agents that run inside of our AWS cluster that are connected to GitHub Actions. So I would like to try and get those two things talking together to sort of be slightly less special case, but there might be problems with that. But by doing that, what I can do is I can use a shared cache between instances of, and I don't mean physical instances, I mean like runs, between one run and the next, and so that effectively we'll only be paying the cost for the new compilers and compilers that have changed each time we run, which hopefully means that it'll take seconds rather than 20 minutes. That's the goal. Having done all that, we can then discuss whether or not that is actually worthwhile doing at all, that whole discovery process, and whether we should just maybe put that to one side. There's another potential caching strategy we can use instead of on disk as well. We use S3 in some cases, but S3 is kind of slow actually. For this kind of thing, S3 can be quite slow. Anyway, coffee. Very nice. Okay, let's try and work out this mtime issue. So let's restart this and put a breakpoint over here. Wonder vaguely why it's not working. Hello. Oh, there we are. Right. So mtime is null, and looking up the call stack, build m setup base. So I think this constructor needs to not do this work in the constructor. It needs to be in the initialize. So this is stuff to do with our build environment for libraries, which is one of the parts of the code that I have the least understanding of, in fairness. The inestimable and amazing Partouf took this whole area on and made it great. I just don't know it. So this is a bit of an embarrassment for me. So if we pass in this exec compiler cached func, this looks familiar. I bet you if I git blame this is my fault. Yes, I think I remember adding this in, and I broke it, so that's completely on me. And it's probably okay. I think this probably the mtime of null might be okay. I prefer not to, though. I don't like that. That's certainly not how it's supposed to work. So so this thing is passed in the exec compiler cached func, so that it knows how to do its caching. And that function is this thing here. So this allowed us to break a sort of circular dependency between the build environment setup and the caching system, so it could be agnostic to that, and also allowed us to do tests, if I remember rightly. Okay, so that is fine. What if, do we only use that? All right, why don't I split this? I know I don't have much space at this font size, but if I move you over there, so exec compiler cached func, this.exec compiler cached has support for async. I think, you know, we don't need to pass this in at all if we add an async initialize function. And if we add an async initialize function, we pass the cache func to that, and then we can't do this work. That's great. All right, that's what I'm going to try here. So initialize exec compiler cached func. Let's get rid of you, bye-bye. Get rid of you, bye-bye. And then if this.compiler arch, blah, else, if passed in the thing. All right. Well, if we don't pass it in at all, we won't do it. And then here we're going to say if oh, isn't that funny? Yeah, this is the IDE telling me you can simplify this. Yes, let's simplify that. Hurrah. That is much simpler. All right, so we support x86 if it's not Arch, which means that now I've told myself else if not, then so if compiler Arch, that means if we have an architecture that's not, then there's no work to do. All right. And we're assuming that you won't call this unless you actually have a compiler cached function. I think I got that the right way around. I'm not so convinced of that now, you know. I'll come back to that in a second. We'll have a think of it. All right, so most importantly, if has support for Arch now. Does anyone else call has support for Arch? No, good. That's great. So now we can just pass this in. And then, in fact, I'm just going to rename it as that in here. And then we can get rid of the this is here, and that will just work. Just TM. All right. Now, again, I'm not actually spending too much time trying to think about what this is really doing, for some definition of really. But what we should be able to do now is go back to the base compiler here. We don't pass this parameter in anymore. So you come over there. And then in our initialize function, somewhere, initialize, there it is, this.mtime equals this, right? If this.get blah, 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 right, okay. Well, to mirror closely the behavior from before, I'm now just going to paste this in, which is if, oh, hang on, where was I before? The old redo, undo. Okay, so build env setup is what we want to pass in here. So if this.build, whoops, this.build env setup. I hope my keyboard isn't too distractingly annoying, by the way. I'm going to say this.build env setup.initialize splat what exec compiler cache function, which is exactly this. Yes. And then hopefully we've got the right params here. And just format the code there, make sure it looks not awful. Okay. Now, if I had confidence in my testing, I would run the tests here, but I don't right now. So I'm just going to run and see if this even remotely works for the case that we're in. And of course now all the loudest things in the world are outside my house. Trucks going past. Drum roll. All right, so here we are at get compiler cache key mtime. This.mtime is in fact now a modification time, which is wonderful, and that's great. So that is telling me, in fact, what I might do here is if this.mtime mtime equals null, however many equals that JavaScript loves, throw new error needs to be initialized first. It's really unhelpful error, right? But what I'm going to do is kill this and stop that, and then I'm actually going to go to my terminal, and I'm in the right place, make dev. So this will run the whole thing rather than in my IDE, which makes me feel a little bit more confident that things are right. So nothing threw an exception, otherwise we would have found out about it. Everything started up seemingly fine. Now, that is no guarantee. That build environment stuff is a very different thing, so I might have broken something. Let's see what the tests say, such as they are. Now, Partouf is pretty good at this, so if I've broken something in their code, then I'm fairly sure, like 80, 90% sure that a test would catch it. But sorry, Partouf, if I break something of yours. We have quite a lot of tests. These are mostly, though, golden tests or acceptance tests. So we have a whole bunch of like example code that over the years has been problematic, and we run that through all of our different parsers and save out the parsed output and make sure that we agree that the filters work and all that kind of stuff. And that catches a lot of stuff, and it's mostly locking in good behavior than it is giving us good answers. So yeah, this is great. Everything is fine here. We still have one pending test that I should find at some point. And maybe I have fixed the M time was null here. Oh, this is, of course, complaining. Oh, yeah, the ESLint is telling me that we're using single quotes here, apparently, because that was what we decided. Fine. And my... And friends of mine are pinging me on Discord. Actually, right, 1 second. Let me see if I can find this silly stream on YouTube itself. YouTube.com. Sorry, this isn't the bit you can't see. If I search for the silly ID that it gave me. Live now. Yes, you see, this is what we want. We want to do. Save to place. No, just want to share it. Give me the darn... If I search for the silly... Oh, God, no, that was confusing. I opened this video in a browser. Inception level kind of thing going on. So I'm just going to post something in here. There we go. All right, so I've just posted something onto Discord, so maybe some more people will join. Because amazingly, I have more than one concurrent viewer. So thank you for being with me, and thank you for the feedback as well. I appreciate knowing that I am not just talking to myself, despite my wife thinking that is the case. All right, so we have fixed, for some definition of fixed, one issue. We may have introduced another issue to do with the way the build environment stuff works. I hope not. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to test that now, because I believe that it might be being used for the CMake stuff. So I'm going to rerun make dev, and then I'm going to find myself, where is my browser that's in this window? Here it is. We're going to go to localhost 102.40, which is obviously not going to be ready yet. Sorry, I have to keep looking onto this window where my Alt-Tab bar is. Okay, cool. There is that. Yeah. Reload. This is now reloading. So we use Webpack to pack up all of our assets, and we have a lot of assets because we pull in all of Monaco, which is the Visual Studio Code editor. Yes, lovely, lovely, lovely. Look at this. Name and address of the controller. I love the fact that my personal address is visible to the world here. There's no PII. I'm worried about other people's PII all the time, not my own. Okay, I'm going to reset the code and UI setup because that tends to break things. Here is my own local version of Compiler Explorer, and let me zoom in a whole bunch here so that we've got a chance of seeing things. You can see we have a different thing that reminds me that this is my local version and not the one that's on the website. Now, if you run your own local, you won't get these sponsor things up here, so feel free to run a local thing if you don't like the sponsors, but thank you to my sponsors nonetheless. And then, come on, brain, what was I doing? I was going to do a CMake type thing, wasn't I? So let's look for GCC trunk in here. There we go. Right. And then I'm going to say, let's add an IDE mode thing. Let's close that. Let's add a new source editor, and we're going to sort of add this into the mix, and we're going to call it example.cpp. I'm going to say in main splat return square of 120, sure, which will overflow all the things that it shouldn't do, because Unix at least doesn't return the bottom bitty. And then we want a compiler, which we're going to put down here, and that's worked, which gives me a certain amount of confidence. Let's add a new... no, compiler is fine. Yeah, no, that is actually doing the right thing. What did you run? output.s example.cpp. I'm suspicious of that, so let me do it the way that I think it's probably being used. So cmake arguments d cmake build type equals debug. We want to add a new file, new source editor, which will be called C++ sorter. I'm going to say project moo add executable. I think it's what it is, isn't it? Example.cpp. And then I'm going to add this in and save it as cmake list.txt. And then this is going to be example. And we wait. My golly, that actually worked. Oh, that's well, some of it worked. Is that right? Yeah, it did, and it worked for Arm GCC as well, which leads me to think it probably is working. But let me put it onto this. Yeah, I mean it's a binary build, which means that it's probably this thing here. If, for example, I was to no, I think that's working. All right, I'm very surprised, pleasantly surprised, I might add. So right, still chalk one up to maybe this isn't quite working the way I would like it to. So where are we? We've edited .misc.yaml. What the heck? What is going on here? Oh, why? This is a new version of Intellij changing one of its own configuration files. Fine. Right, this is not good. This is abuse of being the main person of a project. I'm just going to call this idea churn. Look, hey, here's somebody who's done this before. I'm just going to commit directly to main, which is the worst thing to do ever. And in fact, I'm going to do it so much that I'm not even going to run the pre-commit hooks. Brilliant. Okay. Git push. Off it goes. I get notified somewhere else. Okay, so we now have some horrible extraneous white space here. What's wrong with me? I'm so sorry. It's offensive, isn't it? There. I mean, it should have got rid of that. I'm surprised it didn't. Git add dot git checkout dash b mg, and what is this? This is initialize later. Not the most descriptive branch name ever, but let's commit this. Let the pre-commit hooks run, and then the convention on our team is that we do PR everything. We don't always wait for a review to merge, but at least gives people a heads up about like a unit of work that should probably be looked at. So if Partouf were around, I would wait for them to kind of give me the okay on this as it touches their code the most. But for the purposes of getting on, I might just merge this. Anyway, this is part one. We don't even need to get this merged, right? We can just branch off of this branch and keep going, which is what I do at work all the time. I don't know anyone else who gets themselves tangled all the time in various branches. I have the spider's webs of branches. At one stage, I had a DAG of like this PR and this PR merged. Then I can do this one. Then I can do another one over here. And it was, drawing out a DAG to work out which order you want to merge in a whole bunch of pull requests is not a good sign. I like to have small targeted pull requests though, as anyone who works with me knows. Yes. Okay. So what do we do here? That is a good question. So defer running compilers until after. Oh, you know what I didn't do? We're gonna have to change this commit. Running build env stuff. So mtime compiler cache is keyed off of compilers. mtime isn't set until initialize. Build env was running stuff ahead of that, and so was being cached with a null mtime. So introduces a new initialize call for build env, and now throw on what? What did we throw on? Throw on trying to use compiler cache before end time is set. Right, so that's not necessarily going to fix everything. Love it. Right, the thing that occurred to me while I was typing this is one of the reasons why I like to write decently descriptive names is I don't remember awaiting that call. You know, I'm expecting to reply to me here. I don't remember when in that base compiler initialize, I don't remember awaiting the call to initialize. So where the heck is our initialize? Run compiler, async initialize. There it is. This.build, look here. See, the IDE is no help because it doesn't know what the hell that thing is. But there, that's what we were missing. Now, as it happened, that would have been quote unquote okay. Suspicious, but okay. I think the reason for that is that unlike say Python, which I believe, unless you actually await something, it doesn't necessarily schedule the work. In JavaScript, it's going to eagerly do that work. So it wasn't a huge problem, but a problem nonetheless. So we're going to fix that. We haven't committed. We haven't. So I'm just going to amend. We haven't done anything else, and the test will run again, and the lint will run again. And it's a kind of smell that it's so complicated the IDE can't intuit what type that object is. And I'm sure there's cleverer ways of doing that. Some nice things. You're also not awaiting in initialize, someone says here. Oh, in the initialize call itself of build env setup. Or unless that, maybe we're delayed here. Whoever is, so Simon, you mentioned this. I'm sorry, there's a bit of a delay going on, but I'm going to follow through. If you're right, you're absolutely right. Thank you. That is brilliant. Well, just goes to show, missing trailing comma. What? What are you? Oh, was that because? Oh, there's the annoying cat from up the road is now. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so now we are actually awaiting for everything. That one, there's no excuse for the IDE not to have complained at me. Why weren't you complaining at me? Look, it's async. I'm async. All right, well. Okay, missing comma, base compiler. What on earth are you complaining about? Yes, so thank you, Simon. That was brilliant. Dex, you're very welcome. I'm glad that it's helpful. It has been a while since I've had the opportunity to spend a decent amount of time on it. I try and spend, anyone who's supporting me on Patreon, thank you very much indeed. I try and spend, most morning commutes and most evening commutes, I'm trying to get through pull requests and whatnot. And then I spend one day a week, one evening a week, where I try and do a concentrated amount of work. But it's hard, right? It's hard to do decent amounts of change in short blobs of time. So this week is hopefully going to get us a long way. Okay, what are you complaining about? Lines. I mean, that's a line 2, missing trailing comma, 474. I suspect that this is a... I know that something got merged in to force... doodads, what the thing now, ESLint or Prettify, one of those things. And I wonder if there's just something that got missed. 474, and it's only now coming up, but it didn't complain before. See, this is clearly not something I changed. I am suspicious. All right, I'm going to ask in our chat here. I'm just going to paste this in. So I know that we have been moving towards making everything linted appropriately, which is great, and I am 100% behind it. And I think some changes were made to sort of get us closer to that, but we didn't quite get there. So I don't know quite what to do about that right now. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a git commit minus n, which is again horrible. So we have that on a branch. And go back to main. Make sure we're up to date here again. And then clearly eslint -- format blah is what it was running. Oh, of course, sorry. npm run. Did you mean this? Arrgh. I probably did mean that, but I'd imagine that that's not actually going to work. No, you see, that didn't work. Npm run lint. eslint dot. I'm not sure where this format's coming from. This is where I get to discover a whole bunch of things. So my guess here is that we've turned on the lint rules, but we haven't run it on the whole repository. So it's only now the differences that are there that are causing an issue. Of course, this will take 100 million years, approximately. See, that's given me a clean bill of health. Where is that format GitHub coming from? Oh, was that it? No. ESLint formatted GitHub. CILint. Aha. npm run CILint. Why have we got lint and CILint? Suspicious. Time to do some spelunking. Hello to the new folks joining. So, in the background, my wife is waking my dog up. We have the world's laziest dog. He's brilliant. If any of you listen to my podcast, you'll have heard him growing up in the background as we record. See, look, what's wrong with that? So, that is surprising to me. So, if I do npm run CILint, it looks like I could pass. I did mean that. CILint, it's not C. I wonder if the dot is different from passing the command line arguments in directly. Come on. Computers, eh? No, apparently that's also fine. I am perplexed. So let's just go back to reflog. Where was I? I was initialized later is what it was called. Git checkout. Now if we were to run this here, will it complain in this particular environment? Possibly. And if it doesn't complain now, I will be bewildered. Good. And by good I mean bad. So let me just see what difference I actually had made. Did I accidentally make a whole bunch of changes in here? It's possible I did, because I sometimes press buttons. Oh look. Oh look. Oh hello Monty. My dog has said hello to me in the background here, but I've cropped the camera so you probably can't see him. Yeah, apparently I did probably hit my editor's button that reformats everything. So that did in fact make everything look different, and I didn't notice. See, normally I diff these things and I didn't because I was lazy, and That is my fault. So look, this is better, right? Clearly there was like extra white space on this side and this on this side. But okay, do I have a make target or an npm target? Format fix. Yes. Let's see what that does. Oh, npm run format fix. All right. Nothing apparently changed because that is not what we're doing here. So that only does static. Format, static. I'm now annoyed that we apparently don't lint stage npm run format fix. So this stuff is only linting all of the TypeScript files in our web app side of things. So we complain on one side but don't do anything about it. We've got lint fix, but that doesn't apparently do quite the same as CI lint, and CI lint is eslint -- format github dot. What? Oh, I see. The format github is obviously the output. I see. All right. Let's try, like, as in like the format is not like the text, the code format. It will be the format of error messages. So that's just saying, hey, on CI, output it in terms of things that GitHub will understand, which makes more sense to me. Yeah, the question that was weird. The first time, so the first time I committed, I was only committing the .idea directory, and the Husky hook that we have only runs things that make sense for the commit that you're doing. So, yeah, okay, that sounds better. Yeah, so I think the first time I committed, I only committed the .idea. The second time, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I hit a key in between those. Let's assume that I'm silly and it was a user error. Okay, now we've just got basecompiler.js line 2151, which is already a terrible smell, right? Any file that's this long. So what did you used to look like? Okay, let's do git diff tool dir-diff origin main, and let's go and look at base compiler and say, look, okay, this is a catastrophe of changes. I don't know why my IDE has decided to do that. In fact, this whole thing is a catastrophe. I might just make the change again, because I don't want to. This is not something I want to deal with right now. So, as much as I want a unified view of the world, now I see if I hadn't done git commit amend, we would have been able to do something cleverer here. But I'm annoying. I'm annoyed at myself. Okay, so I am going to git checkout main -- and then I'm going to, in fact, everything. So now what we have here is the diffs taking us back to what things used to look like. And then I want to reapply. Do I want to do it this way? I just want to try again, the whole thing again. God, that's an annoyance, isn't it? Yeah, things like this. It's manifestly better the way it is second line without like the parens there, but that is not better. So definitely things are you know, yeah, that needs to go back in. All right, all right, so this one over here, we want to revert that. That just becomes the thing we changed it to. Hooray. Okay, so this file is mostly going to remain the same. Okay, so now that is as it was, I think. What are you complaining about? Oh yeah, and then we want to revert that. And then this one here. I think this is probably just me making the same changes I made before. Okay. And then all these other changes are me undoing the auto reformat, which just needs to be done now. I'm going to definitely push that through, but like that's not fun to look at. Okay, I think that's what we wanted there. Okay, over here in base compiler, what we wanted to do is, I'm just going to try and remember where these changes were. Yeah, this thing is just going to be like that. And then down here in initialize, we're going to bring back in my other change there. Okay. And we've got the await, and that is exactly what we wanted to do. Okay, so I'm going to do git add dot git diff tool diff origin main. So now this, if I've done this right, what we should see now is the actual change that I wanted to apply, nothing else. So constructor change, yes. Await. Yes, that's what we wanted to change there. That's brilliant. Here, just the build env setup, and I think that is it. I can't actually click on this thing here. If this build in initialize, and there should be the other change inside the constructor. There it is. Yes. Okay. Those are the actual changes we wanted to make. Good grief. Git commit minus amend minus n. All right. Git push dash u, and then yes, that's what I meant. I've got the automatic thing set at work, and I've not got it set here. Wonderful. Let's go and have a look at it on actual GitHub, which I will pull over to the window. And I can get rid of that. And build m was blah blah blah, so it was being cached in m time. Build m now throw blah 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 blah. Okay. Preview that to make sure I've actually got my markdown right. That looks good to me. I'm going to create the pull request, and then I'm going to do a self review. What I normally do is make a draft, but you can see my process here. So this is the final and canonical. Am I changing everything or just the lines I wanted to? This.compiler this.env, this compiler this.env. Brilliant, looks great. In the initialize, if we have a build env setup, which we will only have in the case of where previously we would have asked the constructor to do all the work, if we have one, we now await initializing it. Wonderful. Now, obviously, there's some clever things we could do to do more than one thing at a time. Not going to worry about it. Don't care. Now, I mean, obviously, I care. Here, we got rid of the constructor argument, and we added initialize, where we call it with exec compile crash function, and then we do the work here. Love it. That looks good to me. I can't review my own changes, so I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that for now, and anyone on the team who might be quite reasonably not watching this, because frankly, who would? You nice people obviously are watching this. Thank you for your support and time here. Right. So the next thing I would like to do is run this locally with that cache set again. I think, so that was in the Compiler Explorer local properties. Oh, I have got it set here. Okay, so temp CE compiler cache. Now, I actually have got quite a lot of compilers. So by default, Compiler Explorer is expecting everything to live in /opt Compiler Explorer. This is the default place where if you lie to Compiler Explorer and say that you are Amazon, or if you copy the Amazon properties to be your local properties or symlink them like I do, then this is where everything is going to be expected. And I have quite a lot of compilers installed. There is a tool that we use to install compilers called CE install. In fact, let's just do CE install. This is actually open source. It's part of our infra repository, and you can run this, and for all except for the compilers that are closed source, you can run this and install compilers too. If you are on an Ubuntu-ish machine, and yeah, just Ubuntu-ish, right? We try to make them as straightforward as possible, but like there's a lot of things in here. How many things do we have in here? Let's have a look. 797 of our compilers can be installed this way, or compilers and libraries, I should say. So, that's how I've installed all of these. There's nothing magical about it. Like if I wanted to install, like we just literally added, well, first, actually, I need to, because it's just literally, I'm going to do a git pull here, right, and go back into Compiler Explorer. But it's CE install, install GCC 11.3.0. That went in last night. And so that should give me GCC 11.3, which is, which is nice. Incidentally, you can just grab this URL as well if you want to. Just grab any of our compilers and run up our AWS build more than normal. That's fine. It's not fine, but it's all right. We've thought about making this, downloader pays type stuff, but it's just too much effort. Just don't take the mickey and it'll be fine. That's something else I actually have to do this week while I've got my time. This is the inglorious things that one has to do as the runner of a project like this. Is I've got to find or write a terms of service. A number of companies have approached me and said, hey, we'd love to use your site, but we don't. Our legal department says that we can't use it unless we have a clear okay from you. And so I've had to write emails saying, yes, it's completely fine for you to use it in your training, whatever. But a clear terms of service would give everyone an easier way of saying that. It would also give me a place to say what is okay and what is not okay when it's not clear. So we have an API. We have a public API that's a RESTful API that folks have used. And so if you've used the compiler bot on Discord, Headline writes, then that's using the Compiler Explorer API behind the scenes. And you can write your own. There are plugins for various IDEs that let you run Compiler Explorer kind of in your IDE. So this, for example, was GCC 11. So just as an example, hey, excuse me. So I have yet one more compiler now. So let's do make dev. And we do a drum roll. And so that process there of 344 compilers was it hitting the cache. So if we've got the seed Compiler Explorer cache, and I can actually remove that cache and see how long it takes now to start up. Bear in mind, this is all local on a very fast drive on this machine. So like here, it's taking its time as it's running each of these compilers one after another, or actually it's doing, I think, multiple of them at a time. If it's not doing multiple at a time, it should do. Yeah, no, I think it is doing multiple at a time. So that was one of the problems, was that we were doing, in the original problem that caused this whole thing, we had a site outage, which was tracked back to a problem with this process where we had sort of added a whole bunch of Java-based compilers. Java-based compilers love to fire up a JVM that loves to take as much memory as it wants, right? Which is often gigabytes for the clever things that Java does. But if you run too many of those at once, then you can run out of virtual memory, especially in the situation where we run our compilers. And so then they were crashing, and the startup would take too long, and then the node would be killed. We still don't quite understand why that got into sort of a death spiral. But yeah, there you are. That's how long it took to start up now. 69 seconds. And if we do it again, now we've got a cache. Drum roll. There we go. 11 seconds, 12 seconds. Much nicer. That's what we want. So that cache process needs to be made so persistent, I think, or we can either use S3 for that, or we can use GitHub. So I'm thinking maybe we're going to use GitHub Actions for this, which means porting things over to GitHub Actions. Let me show you how this runs currently. In fact, let's go behind the scenes a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in on this. This is a separate terminal. I'm going to do admin login -- mosh. This is logging into the yes, the process is definitely like orchestration. So apparently I have a detached mosh session, which is probably my laptop, which is over here. Here we are on the admin node of the server. This is the way that we typically there we go. You can see like there was the working on a fixed thing from yesterday. So the administrators, there's myself, there's Ruben, Austin, Partouf. I think those are the only folks who log in nowadays. But we share a tmux session on this machine, which is running in our data center in Amazon, right? And so I can show C instances list. Let's do the production environment in prod. Oh, instances status. Gosh, you'd think I would know how to use my own tool, right? But we have a little bit of a scripting behind the scenes here that lets us manage these things. And one of the commands that it can run is the command that starts up that special instance that then runs a particular version of the code and does the compiler discovery process. That means that it runs all the compilers like I was doing locally. It has no cache, and it takes 20 minutes as a result of that to start up and do all of its work. So there's all of our instances running currently now. And when it's finished, it saves off that file, and the file is then used by all of our live instances to fast track their startup process and to sort of set what version it is. Now, the two problems there are it takes 20 minutes, and if it didn't take 20 minutes, then maybe we would just not even have this process. And it is a sort of separate instance. So I've got runner, what have we got here? I can't even remember how to run my tool. Status. Stopped. It's stopped at the moment, this particular instance, but it's a whole computer that's just asleep all the time, and it's only used for this kind of thing. Now, our normal process, and I say normal because it's now normal. It wasn't normal when Partouf did the great work to get the runner going. But we actually have our own runners now in GitHub. So, for example, if I can find the right spot. This is the wrong repository. This squasher specifying compilers here, this particular thing runs on a dynamically allocated machine that fires up and does the work and then goes to sleep again. And that, I think, is how I would like the discovery process if we need it to run. So the compiler discovery process, I think, two things here, right? One, we have to do it at all, but two, it can use persistent information. A way to do the persistency is to use the same S3 based caching that we use for everything else. Another way, though, is to just preserve and restore files using GitHub. Although I think, I don't know how that works in this particular setup. So I'm going to have to reacquaint myself with how this works. So I need to, first of all, open the info repository. Here we are. And then in here we have the compiler discovery YAML. So here is our compiler discovery job. And there's all the sort of settings that configure GitHub. If you've never seen how Github Actions work, by the way, it's a fascinating and complicated beast. So this runs on our admin server. And I would like to get rid of the things that run on our admin server if possible. And so update the infra is what we do. Set build environment, git pull, do compiler discovery, and upload them. Yeah. So I would like to try and get this running on our self-hosted Ubuntu machines here. Let's have a think about how that might work. So I'm going to steal an example one, so either bespoke build or squash.yaml, both of which run on our CE Ubuntu machines. And now the compiler discovery, hang on a second. I wonder, is there a version number in there? I think there might be. That might be a problem. It definitely requires thought. Runner discovery. So there's a whole bunch of code inside the runner code that does this work. But all right, I'm going to run locally. I'm going to run that discovery process locally and sort of have a poke about myself. So I need the other IDE, and over here there's some extra command line parameters I need to pass to this. So let's pass -- help. I don't think -- help works actually. I need to really update my game there. Okay. Tell me, don't tell me. I want to look at app.js, in fact, on here. App.js. Discovery only. There we go. That is the parameter we want to pass. So this is what's behind the scenes is going to be happening. It's going to say dash dash discovery only temp discover.json or something like that. All right, and then let's run it. Now this should only take 11 seconds as we discovered before. And I'd love to profile what else takes all the damn time on this. Oh, why are you taking so long? Oh, because this is running. Clang plus. I don't know why you're running more compilers now. Language C++. So this has restricted the number of compilers, but for some reason it took much longer. Why did you take longer? Bless you, Monty. My dog is sneezing behind me now. I am very confused. This also smells of, well, if that did not hit the cache, maybe there's a bug in the caching system, which could explain a lot of things. Yeah, well, let's look at the top of this to see if it did actually configure itself with a... Oh, let's find the right key press. Okay, so on disk cache, yeah. I am very confused. Why the heck did you take so long to do your work? It should have taken less time, if anything, because I've restricted it to only C++ in this instance. Whereas when I ran in here, $344 in like no time. All right, very confused. Very, very confused. Okay, I think we've discovered a new bug. So I'm going to delete the cache. I'm going to make dev here. So this is populating it with a cache that's coming from the command line, which should be identical to running it in the IDE. And then I'm going to run it over here in the debugger. So there's nothing magical special about that. And yeah, we're going to run you in the debugger, and I'm going to look at base compiler, and then whatever the heck that function was that we just changed. Cache key, there, get compiler cache key, and all of that. Oh, caching. Because this might explain the bug, right? So if the caching works perfectly, we should never run the same compiler twice, ever. And the issue we had when the JVM-based things were crashing was that we were running things, crashing, and not making any forward progress, which we should have at least made some forward progress. And so, confused. So now we're running locally in the debugger, and I'm going to get to this point where I have a cache key of GCC 412 bin G++. Oops, I definitely did not mean to detach you, and I don't even know how to reattach you. There, hopefully. What I meant to do is that. Okay, so GCC 412 bin G++, and if we look up here somewhere, GCC 412 bin GCC G++ is ready. Okay, so we should definitely have run this already. This should be in the cache. Now, of course, I haven't put any debugging in, so I can't tell. So we're going to get the cache key. And the cache key says we have an M time, We have this, we have dash dash target help, options, max error output timeout ms. Oh, would you Adam and Eve it? It's got a path. And that path will of course be different because my IDE has a different idea about what my path is compared to my shell. Well, isn't that a doozy? Now that path unfortunately is, or that env is in fact important. So that explains why it would miss. But it doesn't explain the issue we were seeing in production because they have the same, or they should have the same environment every time. But I think that at least explains this. Yeah. Well, all right, that sucks that they're going to be different. And I suppose I should check that they are actually different before I write it off as that, but that seems likely to me. How am I going to do that? That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked. The oldest trick in the book here, I'm going to do logging. No. Gosh, how do I even do this? I can't even remember. Console.log. Yeah, that'll do for now. Moo. And then we're going to do, what is this? This is args.options. No, sorry, it's just options.env. Okay, so then we're going to stop you. Actually, I shouldn't have stopped you, should I? Damn it. Quick, copy value there. All right, I've got the path. That's one of the IDE path is that one. I'm going to run it again over here. Well, okay. And if I paste, yeah, look here. The path here is got node bin, poetry bin, all this nonsense compared to the IDE only having this. So these ones here have come from my shell. My shell has some extra ones in. Okay, I am happy enough that that is what's going on here. Love it. Okay, so that unfortunately does not explain the unusual thing we saw in production, but explains why I'm not getting hits between the cache when I run locally out of a shell versus when I run in the IDE, which has a different path. And it's important because the compiler might react to that path, so I don't want to not disregard the environment variable. It seems like a churlish thing to do, something that's going to happen here. Yeah, but don't await here. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. All right. I think I'm good with that. So where were we before I decided this? Yes, that's right. I was going to actually look at the result of the discovery, and I just got myself confused by the fact that it took a long time. So what have I got in temp? I've got see compiler cache. No, all right. I obviously did not let it finish because I was so confused. Okay, let's discover a temp discover.json is what we're going to look at after we let this actually run to completion. There's one I made earlier actually there. I just realized. Oh, jq c dot that less minus r. Yeah, you can see it's quite a big document. Alias interpreted. Yeah, there's a lot of mention of the word version in here. So the other day I thought I'd did something which meant that these things weren't compatible between versions, but I think we're okay. Okay, so discovery only. Did that not work? It's meant to quit. Discover only. Oh my god! You see, this is a word. I need to fix my command line parser to not be so awful, for want of a better word. I'm just using nargs or whatever the default nopt. Bleh. So there's literally no help there. There we are. Okay, that's what it should have done the first time. So now it's made a temp discover.json. If we look at ls-l temp discover.json, we've got a 800k file, which is, you know, the worst kind of stuff. Love it. Wonderful. All the things. Great. Super smashing lovely. Okay. So now I have to ask myself, do we want to just speed up the caching, point the discovery thing at a regular S3 cache, which would mean a little bit of change? Do I want to use a different approach entirely? Do I just want to get rid of the discovery cache? I don't know, friends. This is a problem. I mean, it's not a big problem in the grand scheme of things, but it's definitely pause for thought. I'm trying to think where I'm going to get the most value out of this. Do I want to get rid of the idea of compiler discovery overall? Maybe I do, even though it does come with some benefits of like certainty of versioning between different executors, but I wonder if we can fix that in a different way. Like, so one thing we do is behind the scenes is once a day we refresh a whole bunch of compilers. All of the daily compilers get refreshed, and when we do that, the individual nodes don't know that that's happened. So periodically they have been running a refresh to just check the versions of the compilers. We don't really want to do that anymore, and in fact I don't know that we do that anymore. I'd have to find out if we're still doing that. Let's have a look at the refresh. Oh, where is it? Compile Explorer default properties. Refresh. API max age compile blah. Somewhere in here was a thing that would run the compilers periodically. And now I can't remember where it is. This is the trouble. This is why I need more time to spend on this project, which hopefully by the end of this week I will be in a great spot. But yeah, periodically we refresh them. Now the problem with refreshing them is that we have many nodes running. 5, 6, 7, maybe even 14 nodes we've been known to run. And that means that each node has a different idea about what version of each compiler is at. And that's not great for caching. And so even though we update the compilers once a day, the trunk versions of the compilers once a day, depending on various web caches and various vagaries of when the node that you're hitting did its refresh, then you might get a different idea about what version of the compiler you're getting. And just to be concrete about that, what I mean is when you pick, let's reset this. When you pick a trunk version of the compiler, GCC trunk, and then you go down here in a little I, and you say this thing here, which was too small for you to see. There we go. It says Compiler Explorer build GCC blah experimental. So this update here comes from whichever node I hit in the back end. Now, again, if the nodes update at different times, then they get different answers. And that is not great because this is cached for some amount of time by all the various proxies along the way. And so sometimes when we've done an update, it takes a while for everyone to start agreeing on what version this is. The nice thing about the compiler discovery process is that everyone will always have the same answer because they always look it up in this file. So that's a boon. The downside is that now we have an extra step when we do our deploys. And honestly, I'm wondering now if I might just have to solve this versioning problem a different way by disabling the auto update in some way. Oh, I don't know. All right, for now, I think I'm going to stick with the discovery process for now. And we'll get it going faster, and then I can have a think about it. Right, that's whatever which way we go is going to be better if that discovery process is faster. And then if it becomes so fast that it becomes a no-op, then we might just take it out. Okay, that's where we are with this. Oh, Luca, hello. Just noticed you come on board. I've probably only got another hour in me before I have to stop talking to myself in a room, and then get some lunch with a friend. Because, if I'm taking a week off of work, then I'm going to do some other things as well. Although I am trying to think of this as like a regular work day. And it would help also if I hadn't knackered my back over the weekend, or last weekend. So I should probably be standing up more than I am here. And in fact, I am going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back and do the what now? We're going to look at persisting the cache for the discovery process to make the discovery process super quick. So I will be back, and that also gives me an opportunity to try out this whole thing that I've got, this scene thing in OBS that I set up very hastily seconds before I started. Yeah, so I'll be back in just 2 minutes. Okay, hopefully that worked. It does appear to work. I can see on the YouTube thing that it changed to my funny little made up at the last minute break screen. I can actually, it means I can see the lag now. Right. I suppose I should have drunk the coffee while I was on my break rather than rather than inflict you with horrible gurgling noises. So let us improve the compiler discovery process. And so the simplest thing I can think of to do right now is... Why you changed the thing? Oh yeah, that's right, reset hard. I forgot I checked that file in. Right, the simplest thing to do now is, firstly, is to go to Compiler Explorer, actual Compiler Explorer. Too many words, Compiler Explorer, it starts making any sense. Loads of security vulnerabilities, whatever. That's not true. I need to suppress some of them because they're only in the things that are in the back end that you can't get to. Pull requests. I'm sorry if one of these is one of yours. Sorry, Ruben and Igor. Yep, everything here seemed to work, and I think, as I said before, ideally we would get someone to review, but everyone is busy. So I'm going to squash and merge the change that we were working on, and that will kick off a build. Hooray! Which also takes ages. Another thing for me to speed up for what it's worth. So in here, there's going to actually be a Compiler Explorer builder. Look, there it goes. Off it's doing. That's not a word. Off it goes, and build 2469 will be the good one. But what we also want to do is I'm going to show you what the runner itself looks like. So as I say, this runner is not running. So I'm going to start from the position of not trying to change too many things at once. Even though I want to actually get rid of the runner and have it run on our regular CI system. But let's start one thing at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the runner. And I'm going to log into the runner, and I'm going to have a poke around, and I'm going to find somewhere to put a persistent cache, which might just be in its local directory. That would be a good starting point. That way I don't have to muck around with anything like, what's its face, persistent caches on S3, or we've got some Redis caching that we want to put in. That's another thing I might want to do this week as well, is speed up the Redis cache, because, right, that's going to take a little while. While it's going, let's go back to our Grafana stats. ce.grafana.net, Yeah, dependable can be overzealous, you're right. So somewhere in here is response time. Now, obviously, our response time is heavily dependent on what you're compiling. But this is a log scale on the left-hand side, and then these are the various like 50 percentile, so median, average, 90 percentile, 99th percentile. And so, you know, like 1 second is our average response time, which is pretty rubbish. You know, we try to be interactive, and 1 second is the very limit of interactivity, in my opinion. Now, again, the compiler is a large contributor to this. And in fact, if you've ever noticed, if we go down here, there's a little graph thing here. So if I force a rebuild of this trivial piece of code, and then click this, it took 64 milliseconds to compile, and then 275 milliseconds was the other stuff. Now, if we get a more complicated thing, so let's go and load, you know, this thing over here and do -03 or whatever. This is a slightly less trivial thing, and then we see that okay, it took 256 milliseconds. Now, obviously, if you've run a compiler before, which I'm sure you have, you'll discover that the compiler takes a little while sometimes. And so if we were actually including a whole bunch of junk here, it would take a while. But even so, we've got like 1/3 of a second of waiting around. And a not inconsiderable amount of that time is us waiting to see if we hit the cache. So we can improve the cache by using something like Redis to say whether or not something is in the cache or not. Anyway, so in the very short term, we're going to do CR runner login. So I'm now logged into the runner node. This would look like a node that was running a regular compiler explorer. So here it is. It's got Grafana agents to tell us all sorts of things about the health of the machine. It's got a load average of 5. Jeezy. And I think I know why. If I type mount, yeah. I think I alluded to you before that there's a whole bunch of squashfs images involved, and there are. And those are still being mounted as we're speaking right now. It's coming in. That's a long story, but one I would tell probably maybe tomorrow if you tune in same time tomorrow if we get that far. I'd love to get rid of this or replace it with something else. In fact, I think Luca, I've bent your ear in private conversations about some of this stuff before now. But I think the reason we've got a high load average is because that's not counting up. That is interesting. Okay, well, anyway, you know it's a bad setup when you got that's terrible. All right, so this is a persistent node. I'm going to abuse the fact that this is a persistent node for now. So where the heck are we? Home, Ubuntu, sure. So we have a no S3 storage setup here, which is something which overrides any of the settings for our runner environment, so it can't talk to the regular S3. And what I would like to do is, it's not this one, is it? It's compiler explorer.nosr.properties here. So this compiler cache config is the cache or otherwise that is going to store those --help compiler things. In the moment, it's an in-memory one, which means it goes away every time, of course. Now, we could point it at S3, but this particular machine doesn't have access to S3 on purpose for now. But I can give it the same kind of disk cache that I'm using myself wherever the heck I've got it in my local properties here. If I can remember, there. So I'm going to steal that, and instead of being .c compiler cache, this is going to be home Ubuntu, and we're going to just call it compiler cache. Now, I don't even know if the executable cache is worth keeping local. Probably not. The constraints on this are much stricter than the executable cache, I think. We're going to give it a go anyway. So this will mean that node, the compiler discovery node itself, will try and use this persistent disk image here. So we should, after we've run this process and checked it in, we'll type ls here, and it will be, there's a directory there which will be used for the compiler cache. And I'm now tempted to put an executable cache in as well, but let's start with this. And this is actually abusing the fact that this machine is persistent, which is something I want to get rid of, but it's a good starting point. So git stash git checkout main git pull. There we go. Stash pop git diff cached. All right. Again, just as a heads up to my fellow administrators, this is going to be cache executables on runner. Git add dot git commit minus commit. I'll do the -m in a second. We'll get this going, and I'm going to catch up with the comments. Meanwhile, your own flavor of C++. That's a fun thing to do. There are quite a few. So if again, while we wait for that to finish, I can do some more behind the scenesy type stuff. If you've ever wondered what on earth half of these C++ things are, we've got so many different variants of C++. Obviously, C++ itself with millions of compilers. C++ Circle. Circle is Sean Baxter's idea about what the future of C++ might look like. C++ for OpenCL has some other stuff. Oh, it looks like I've got a few uploading problems, so apologies if the stream is knackered. CPPX, CPPX Blue, CPPX Gold are all various different attempts to extend C++. Various things like Tim Sweeney's ideas. He's the CTO, I think, of Epic Games. Has got some ideas about moving forward. I think that is that blue or gold? Gold. It's this one here, I think, which is a C++, but uses Python-like indentation as the braces, which is interesting. CPPX Blue. I forget what this is. I mean, there's a little. Does the information thing pop up? I forget. There used to be a pop-up for this, I'm sure. CPPX itself is Herb Sutter's weird and wonderful like meta-programming thing extensions. Oh, here we are. Anyway, right. So this is what we're going to say. This is use a persistent cache for compilers on discovery. Git push u, and I should set up the damn stupid cache executables on runner default. We're going to click this thing here. We're going to say this looks great. I'm going to create the pull request. And that's again more of a heads up than anything else. And I'm just going to squash and merge that immediately. I know it seems churlish, but it's a way of at least giving folks heads up on the those who've got like email filters for it in the rest of the project. So what we'll be waiting for now is for that to build. So that will be not the front end testing, not CodeQL. This version here, 3.5.5.2. That is what we're going to be waiting for. And again, oh no, it's test win. That's not what we want at all. That's the name of the, we want Compiler Explorer 2472. That's the one. A quick summary of what's happening. That is not a bad thing for those who've joined recently. So full disclosure, I probably only have another hour or so of talking before I run out of steam. I'm in the process of trying to speed up our deployment process. The deployment process involves multiple steps. One of them takes about 20 minutes, and I want to either get rid of it or speed it up to the point where we don't really care so much. And there should be no reason for it to take as long as it does. So that's where we are right now. I've just pushed a change which hopefully will speed it up, and we'll see how we go from there. And once we've got that change in, of course, the first time it will still take 20 minutes, but after that it'll be faster, at least is the hope. And if we go over here back onto that machine, what is going on here? Somewhere in here I had that mount command, didn't I? Yeah, 101. I'm really surprised. I don't know why it hasn't mounted more things. This speaks to me of a problem, because what's meant to happen is at startup it mounts all of these images over itself, and that makes me wonder. It really does make me wonder. I'm going to stay logged into this, and I'm going to make a new terminal. That's not how you make a new terminal. New terminal here, and I'm going to actually log into one of our, not Q, CE nprod instances login. So I'm actually going to log into one of our live instances that are serving traffic right now, which always comes with a danger because these auto scale up and down. Can I run it locally on the machine now just to populate the cache? Not easily, because there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes that I'm not 100% sure of, and I'm given how sensitive the cache is to the various parameters, as we discovered earlier, like it was dependent on the environment. I don't want to accidentally get it wrong. Okay, system restart required. So annoying. We do try to refresh these very often, but clearly not. Okay, so we're logged onto a machine now. And I want to say, this is like an actual one serving traffic right now. Yeah, so mount grep EFS, or just WC-L. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. 1,600 things are mounted. One of the things we do at startup is mount, and as part of the thing that takes all the time, is to mount all of the compilers as squash images into their relevant location. So these are much faster to access over the network, because it's compressed and cached much more aggressively than just literally accessing the file directly. And there's a whole bunch of things about that that we want to do. It's painful for a number of reasons, not the least that your mount directory thing looks as awful as this. There are definitely ways using AutoFS to improve this, with some drawbacks potentially about latency and stuff like that. But whichever way you look at it, this is how we're doing it now. And so I'm surprised, and I log off of production because that's not a good thing to be leaving. Why do we only have a half dozen of these things mounted on the runner? That alone might explain something. Maybe. It sounds like maybe the runner isn't actually mounting things correctly. So I happen to know where everything lives here. I know where all the bodies are buried here. Where is the mount all images? This is the magical thing that actually does that. So I'm going to run sudo mount. Why did you stop? Mount point does not exist. I mean, this is possibly an error that we actually get on our real host as well, that one. That's what I was expecting for this, because it's backgrounded, right? It's sort of mounting over an existing file system so that we can hopefully start up sooner rather than later. And yeah, so I don't know why that didn't happen at startup. Suspicious. Or does that happen when we actually run? Cat, etc. Stab. Yeah, the only thing we mount is the horrible NFS drive itself with all the magical things. Yeah, okay, well, a mystery there. I don't know either why it's got some things mounted and some things that are not mounted at all. That makes no sense. It should either have everything or none. So when you start, there's some code that we run when we start the machine itself. So if I look in our bin scripts, no, come on, CE, yeah, which actually runs lib ce.this. Oh, CLI, where does it come from? CLI is here. It's a wonderful click thing, of course it is. And I've forgotten that everything lives in here. Okay, so builder runner.py. Okay, so runner login, runner start. Where is the start? Okay, unable to start. Instance.start. Okay, that does just start the instance. It doesn't do anything else. At one stage we used to log into machines and do all sorts of funky work, particularly for the builder machine, which we still have. Duplicated code fragment, thank you. So there's nothing too complicated going on there. Discovery just runs do discovery.sh, sudo it. Not sure why that's sudo do discovery. That doesn't seem all that. Oh, because it sues to the right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, well, more mysteries. You pick up rocks. Okay, everything here appears to have built. So we have now got build 24. No, that's on my branch. Be careful. Use persistent cache 2472. And in fact, I should be able to go over here. I'm going to, new terminal again. So we're back on the administrating machine itself. And I can say builds list. I can say builds, plural, list. And we can see 2472. Let's just make sure that is the right version. 2472 is ready. It's on main and it's good to go. So runner status. This is what we do. We have a GitHub action that does this. But what we're going to do is CE discovery. CE runner discovery. Oh, how do I do this then? All right. Let me go to the source of truth, which is the workflow for this. Compiler discovery, which is in the info repository mat. Discovery. So I see it updates an env. I got it right. So that's what we need to do. And then you're right, Luca, we can actually run this directly. I should have done that before. So if I set the current version to be GH and then whatever the heck the number was, which I've already forgotten because I'm old and crumbly, 2472. Now the runner knows that that's the version it's meant to be running. And I think we can do this a lot. I believe we can do this in a better way using GitHub Actions for this rather than built stuff. But there it is. And so now I can switch terminal. So one of these here. Okay, we're now on the runner machine. And now we can just go to infra init do discovery.sh. And we can actually watch it do this, which is not something we'd normally do. And then hopefully nothing too untoward is going to be shown here in terms of secret values. No, there are some logging ports that are only hidden because somebody once obviously copy pasted something out of my my example and started logging their application to mine. So there are some secrets there, but they're not that secret. And okay, permission denied. Did I sudo that? I thought I did. Oh, because I'm running as... Oh, that's interesting. Why can it not... Cannot run Ubuntu compiler cache? Permission denied. Because which user does it run as? Of course, it's actually doing a full run like a normal thing would do, like a normal doodad. So it actually runs as CE. Oh, darn it. Okay, now I need to fix that, obviously. So let me fix that right now in here. This is why this is going to be CE compiler cache. Bleh. Horrible, horrible. Dot git commit -m fix path. Git checkout main. Git stash. Checkout main. Git stash pop. Merge conflict. Get out. Ah. Never rains but it pours. All right, let's do this properly. Resolve conflicts. Merge. Look, yes, I want mine. Mine is the right one. Apply. Diff cached. There it is. See, I forgot to git pull, so now I'm going to resolve again. And in my case, it's like, no, really mine, not theirs. Because I've just fixed it. And theirs is me. Okay, git diff cached again. Git commit -m fix path -n. straight to main. All right. In the meantime, Luca has come up with a much cleverer way of doing this, which is to run locally. One of the problems we have is that everything goes out of its way to prevent you from doing any kind of horrible hackery like I'm about to do, because it's going to unpack excuse me, it's going to unpack the version of the code on purpose. Now, if it was actually a GitHub action that was just doing it from a git pull, that would just work, but it doesn't. So I can't actually get behind the back of it. I'm actually going to have to wait for 2473. Never mind. Okay, let's so we want to do 2473, and this is going to complain because it doesn't exist yet. So we're going to do sleep 20 and then try it. No, it takes longer than that, which is another problem. It takes like 6 minutes to do a build. This is using GitHub's own thingamajigs. And by thingamajigs, I mean runners, right? We use our own runners when we're building compilers, but we use GitHub's agents when we are just building the site. Now, a lot of what's going on in here is building the distribution, which takes 2 minutes. And this could run in parallel with the tests, right? We can run the distribution as the tests are running. And the tests take 2 minutes, and the distribution takes 2 minutes. And then the thing that we would want to do is the deploy would only happen once both of those things is true. So that's another exercise for soon, because that would double the speed of our builds at the expense of running 2 workers at the same time, but that's not our expense, that's GitHub's expense. So let's add that to the bit of paper build and test and build simultaneously. I have learned an awful lot about how how GitHub works. If you're interested in how our compilers are built, by the way, we've got compiler workflows, yet another one of these thingies. And you can see over here on the actions, these are all of the compilers that we build every night. And they take, various amounts of time. Apparently, Rust is broken at the moment, but most of these are working, which was nice. What happened with Rust? Oftentimes I just leave this go, because these build the head version of anything. Checking out the ref, Docker build, and our survey says 200 million lines of empty text. All right, well, let me just... no, that's not what I meant to do. Darn it. All right, I'm going to ignore that. That's fine. Just trying to fill the time. Dumpty Humpty Sum. Come on. 3 more minutes. What can we do in 3 minutes that's interesting for you folks to look at? I mean, we've got all these stats over here. While we're here, we can see like the number of compilations in the last 24 hours and see that C and C++ are by far the biggest things we compile. If I view that. And I think I need to edit this to get all of the compilers, but this is a listing of not necessarily the most, but we have more languages than this even, which seems crazy. But yeah, head and shoulders C++ is the main language, as probably most of you know Compiler Explorer for its C++, which is the default. But folks use C directly and Rust, and even Fortrans and other bits and pieces. Analysis sometimes appears on here, which is something else I'd like to get to. If I can get rid of all these boring issues that have been plaguing me this week, I have some ideas for like treats for myself at the end of the week to try and add features that are fun for me that I might use. Fixed path, you're still going. 2473, come on! A watched GitHub action never completes. All right, well, we're into that stage of it now. It's fun. All right, what are the stats we got? I guess I can log into AWS and show you what the AWS stuff looks like. Alright, if I can find my phone. Hey phone. Magic number. Alright, this is... I'm just going to move that off there while I type in the MFA. I'm sure all of you are able to know my password and whatever, and the MFA. It doesn't exactly help you that much. Okay, yeah, we're logged in now, so I'll move it back over here. Wonderful. So EC2 looks like this. And sometimes I forget and I log into like my work one where we've got thousands of these and it gives me heart failures. Actually, I haven't done that in this current job, but my previous job, we had an account, and there were many thousands of instances that would run, and you log into the wrong account, and suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, someone's just run 100 million instances in my personal account, but they haven't. So here are all the things that are currently running. We've got a bunch of things, including some test things that I'm working on, which is the real thing I'm supposed to be doing this week, but I haven't. You can see some other stuff behind the scenes, Xania Mud, if you know my C++ is superpower. You know that I worked on a Minecraft, I just read the word Minecraft, which is not running. I worked on a multi-user dungeon for that, and that is still running and up, and in a window over behind me over there. For those who support me on Patreon, I have some accounting tricks so that I only account the compiler explorer resources to the things I pay for from my Patreon stuff. So my own personal stuff, like my kids' Minecraft server, which doesn't run forever, and Mud and whatever, don't count towards that. So don't feel that you're in that world. But we have a CE runner. What is CE? Oh yeah, that's the runner. That's the runner we're running. Of course, the runner. The thing that we're trying to work on right now. You can go up there and we might look at you some more in a second. Aha! Okay, right. So now we have 3473. I can now press up and return, and that will work. Oh, without the sleep 20 book. Yes. Runner main. Okay. And then over here, I can sudo make me a sandwich again over here. And hopefully this time it will work. Okay, we got this far last time. Oh, wine. Alright. Off it goes. Taking its 12.5 million years for each of these compilers. Which is completely fine, because it'll only have to do this once, we hope. Oh, it's so exciting. I can't believe there's 13 of you currently watching me watch paint dry. Hopefully you've learned something about how Compiler Explorer works. So we'll let that finish. In fact, while that's going, I'm going to make yet another terminal, and I'm going to do runner login. So I've got another login session to the runner. Sudo su-c ce. How do I forget? All right. So there's our discovered compilers.json, which is the output of this from the previous time this ran. And that will get uploaded to S3 and used by all of the other compilers. But we have now got a compiler cache directory there, which is what I wanted to check just to make sure. Compiler cache. Oh, beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Okay, so I'll log out of that and there. Okay, there's an actual error. Unable to find compiler version for blah. And some non-zero results. Zap CC. I don't know. That was a good idea. Never quite worked out. I think it was a commercial version of Clang that had very aggressive caching in both memory and across like a distributed cluster, if I remember rightly, which I probably don't. Let's check me various alerts that have been happening on my phone. So theoretically I was on call for my day job up until about 9:30. I was just banking on them not paging me. Golly, this is really interesting. Like, this tells me something about... So I am actually now going to log back into this machine. I know I keep forgetting or not doing that. And I want to run top and say, what the heck is going on? Well, wouldn't you look at that? Would you Adam and Eve it? It's a half dozen Java programs running at once. And now it's finished. Okay, so those just took a long time. I wonder if they fought with each other and this machine is powerful enough to deal with it, but that was exactly the kind of problem that we saw when the site went down. We had too many Java things running at a time. And that's interesting. Well, yeah, too many things running at once, and so things never finished, and the node got completed. I wonder if there is just still an issue of that flavor there, and we shouldn't just be running 4 big JVM apps at the same time. But obviously, the more of these things we run concurrently, the faster we boot back up again. Dear golly, look how many of these things we've got. Of course, this is going to take 20 minutes, but... Yeah, watch text scroll. Yes, not watch paint dry. That is not an indication of the latency of the YouTube connection, Luca, for what it's worth. That's the latency of me lazily not looking at the chat. Alright, actually I should update my notes document, because although I've written stuff on paper in front of me, it's probably better to keep it in here. So debug stuff, run into oh my golly, all my plans for today I'm already like very far behind. Build and test simultaneously. There we are. Alright, well that is clearly taking a while, so I'm going to just put it there so we can see it. You don't have to look at the actual output of it. And then I'm going to go back to that one here, and I put that over here and close all these things. Close other tabs. No, close, yeah, close. There we are. Right, so that I've got like 2 things at once that hopefully is visible enough. And then I am going to think now about the workflow. So ci.yaml on one of these things, GitHub workflows. All right, browsers list. No, not that one. Not you. We want test and deploy.yaml. Sounds good to me. So this is what we do when we are testing and deploying. And what we would like to do is run this part in parallel with this part, and that way everything is groovy. We won't need test, and we don't even need this bit, I think. Yeah, we do, because I can't deploy. These are secrets that get baked into it. So we don't want to have those run on random folks' pull requests. We're still trying to find our feet with regards to security and the appropriate level of paranoia around that. Oh. Yeah, it looks like the stream is working for me. It's streaming back to me in my little window here, Luca. And it tells me I have an excellent... Oh, it says excellent connection, then it said no data, literally as I said that. And now it says excellent connection again. So, I don't know, something might be up. Your JVM thing, yes. If we knew things were JVM, we could actually put it in that support, but it gets tricky. And so I'd like to revamp the whole execution throttling system. That's another kind of nice to do. So that would be worthwhile doing, for certain. But my golly, so many compilers. All right, let's see if we can't get this to work. And out dist bin. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the top part of this up to there, and then I'm going to do that, and these are steps, aren't they? Steps colon, and this will be deploy. This needs test and build dist, and this just becomes build dist. And that is, it would be lovely if that was it, but now I have to remember how to do the magical thing in GitHub artifacts, upload artifact. So we get some blah 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 with exactly that. That's what we need. Something like that. There. Are those lined up? I think they are. Name my artifact. Yeah, let's call it that. Dist, sure. And then we know that it's out dist bin. Like that. Wonderful. And then we have to work out how to do the other bit. Blah, 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 blah. Limitations. Blah. Okay. Storing workflow data as artifacts. Yeah. I'm looking really for the oh, hang on, my lunch date. All right. Here's my lunch date telling me that the place that we were planning on going to is closed on a Monday, so we won't be going there. It's also a lunch date for my dog, wherever he is. Not around, he doesn't know it yet. Okay, uploading and downloading or deleting. Okay, with name equals blood. Does it put it in the same place that it get it? Let's hope so. We'll find out. What could go wrong, right? Whoops. Oh, you know what though? Does this make it public? If it makes it public, I might be in trouble. Why are you angry now? Oh, because this all needs to be indented one. Is that right? No? No. Oh, because you're over indented. All right. Okay, that's cool. Alright, luckily my friend is awesome at randomly ordering food for me because he's just asked what food I like, and I said anything. He's like, that's great. Okay, so everything worked, then we tag the commit and everything. So the trick here is that there are some things, not things that I worry about so much, but do these get built into it? I don't know that they do. No, they don't. I think we're all right. I don't think there's anything in the artifact distribution that's secret. These secrets are used only to actually make the distribution, which is kind of itself a problem, I realize now. Blast. Because this will tag a release in Sentry, which is one of our tracking systems for errors, even though it never actually got published if the tests failed. I don't know that that's a problem. But let's have a look at build.dist.show and see if we can't separate it out. Create and set commits for a Sentry release if and only if we have the secure token set. Well, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to teleport that out. This whole part here is going to come out of there. Whoops. Download the built distribution, and then name, tag in Sentry, uses, oh, it's just run :pipe, and then you go there, Is that the right number of indent? Well, we don't need that. We just need these 3 commands here. But now we do actually need this nonsense, unfortunately. Which is unfortunate. Otherwise we're going to take 500,000 years to start the whole thing up. Of course, the whole point of this was we're meant to be watching the other pot that was boiling, and there it is. Okay, discovered compilers saved to this. Okay, and it took... so in my normal shell, I have something which tells me how long the last command took. And so I don't know how long that took. But what we can do is do it again and see how quick it is. And I think we can probably... it would be fairly straightforward to tell whether or not it's hitting the cache. Fingers crossed, everyone. Oh, it's a joy. That's how long it should take. Isn't that a wonderful thing? So, I'm now going to... actually going to stop the runner. And then I'm going to do the normal process that I would do if I was making a real distribution. Alright, so hold the other thing. I know I'm doing 2 things at once now. And, yeah, thank you, Luca. You're right. So the way that I would normally do this is I would go over to our infra repo. And then behind the scenes, this is doing the same thing. And I would go to compiler discovery, and I would say run workflow, and the build number would be, and if I actually go and get the build number, C builds list, the one we would get is this 2473, which I remember now. Click run workflow. And then we wait, one Mississippi. And behind the scenes, it's just starting that same instance that we were just running on. And setting the build number just like I did manually. So we're going to watch it go. And obviously it takes a while for that instance to start up. And so now I will move you over there, and then we will continue in this world. And then release name. Oh, well, that's an interesting one. Where is release name coming from? And I need to set all of those environment variables that were previously here. So let's get those and splat those in there. And then release name, gh release file name, which is GitHub run number. Okay, I'm going to hard code. Am I going to hard code this? No. Let's do the right thing. Echo set output name equals blah blah blah. Name equals branch, and then no, this will be release name, and then this will be $release name. So this is the magical way you communicate, or can communicate, between things. Out dist release build. Oh, or I could just read it from there. That seems like a... I am out dist is what I'm tarring up, I think. Out dist bin. All right, we're back to where we are. Plan A. So then I have to remember how to do these things. So this is the... let me double chevrons, and it's not secrets in this instance. It's something like dependencies.magic.something.badger.blah. Easy to test, right? What am I saying? Steps, but it's not, because what we want here... oh, hang on, hold up. I've got some tab issues going on here. There, I think. Okay. So steps is one thing, but what we want to do is get the output from one of these things here. And so we have to remind ourselves how to get the GitHub action runner get needs output. output from a previous job and a new one, job.blah.outputs. Needs, there we are, that's what I wanted. Copy, beautiful. All right, so this becomes needs dot build dash dist. Hopefully that's not a problem, the fact it's got a hyphen in the bloody thing. Dot outputs dot, and what do we call it? I've already forgotten. Release underscore name. Chances of this working? Diminishingly small, my friends, but we can give it a go, can't we? There it is. Okay. So we set all the tokens that Sentry wants. We're going to run it here. We download the built distribution. We deploy it. And those are the same as before. Out dist bin, dester is fine. And then we do the tags here. And then you're angry because why? Because... No, why are you angry? Why so angry? Aha! Because errant tabbing. Ah, YAML. Alright. I am not convinced that that is going to work all that well. But it is a cheap thing for me to try out because I am luckily in the correct repo that I can git checkout-b mg test and build together. We support branch build, so this runs on branch pushes as well on purpose. And then I will be extremely... Look, let's not run the tests. I've not... There we are. Git commit -n, and this is flujum a bit. Right, build and test and build distribution simultaneously and apparently I'm in some strange mode of fish that I have not managed to get it in before. Let's just start again with that. Whoops, wrong key. Git push. Yes, that's what I meant. Exactly that command. So I will just copy paste you in. Wonderful. And I will create one of these and I will make it a draft just to have something easy to look at. Okay. Doodle-doo-doo. Doodle-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. It would be nice to get this done as well. Alright, so compiler discovery. Well, that's fascinating. Starting the runner is apparently taking all the time. Which means that maybe some of the time that this compiler discovery has been taking has always been not the thing I thought it was. Let's have a look at a compiler discovery from yesterday. Start runner took 1 second. I am suspicious of that, as I'm sure you are now. I wonder if I've broken it now. Let's have a look at what's going on behind the scenes. This is stopped. It says CE runner is stopped. And yeah, it's just stopped. Why did you not start it here? All right, I'm going to cancel this workflow. Once is one of the reasons why I want to unify this. I don't like having multiple ways of doing the same thing, but that's what happens when you have lots of people working on one project and no strong leadership. All right, so this apparently is cancelled, but what I would like, no, not rerun. I don't know. I want to refresh this page until it stops saying this. Okay, the operation was cancelled. CE runner start. So that's what it allegedly was running. So I'm going to run that now myself. Hello, CE runner start. Starting runner instance. Did we print that out? It didn't apparently print out starting runner instance, but I'm a bit suspicious. Yeah, let's see. This is what I would expect to see. So I'm going to chalk that up to something weird that will be fixed this afternoon. and we will see. Phenomena. All right, runner started okay. So I'm going to rerun this job. So it should be a no-op to do the start now in this compiler discovery process. Compiler run workflow. No, I have to remember the darn number, 2473, GH2473, because we used to build on Travis, if everyone remembers Travis, before they went all funny and leaked everyone's secrets everywhere. Okay, compiler discovery. Let's have a look at this. And hello, new folks who have joined. See, there we are, Polly, runner discovery. So we're hoping now this thing will take no time at all. Drum roll. Don't know how that comes out, but it's probably just a really annoying noise. Oh, look at the speed! Look at it go! That's what we wanted to see. Although now it seems to have wedged. Whether it's hit something it's actually doing now, I don't know. Of course, I can be logged into the machine while it's doing this and actually see what it looks like. Meanwhile, we're going to go over here and have a look at our other thing that we're doing, because, of course, one thing at a time would be a terrible waste of everyone's time. This is just super confusing. Compiler discovery. Yeah, see, that's no good to get to this stage and then be wedged. Front-end testing, labeler, code scanning. Where is... Oh, there it goes. Something happened there. That was odd. Maybe I haven't given enough space for the cache or something else. I don't know what happened there. I am confused of that. But yeah, it seems like it's actually running compilers now. Or maybe it's just, who knows. We'll come back to that. Why is there not a build and release thing here? Front end, Compiler Explorer on Windows, CodeQL. I am confused. Actions. Compiler Explorer, test. I don't know why that wasn't on the list. Okay. This because the workflow is not valid. Of course it's not, because unexpected symbol release _name. Because presumably this needs.build-dist. Yeah, but the thing I was suspicious of. Darn it. Okay, so what are we going to call this? Build_dist. Let's see if that's all right. Seeing as everything else has got underscores. Oh, and I knew I should have put it in a variable. Excuse me. Oh dear. Something's gone in my... I'll try not to joke before. Okay, back to here. Hopefully already broken, right? What else has gone wrong? Unexpected symbol release note. Need stop. Oh, is it jobs? Was that what I needed to do? Be lovely if there was a lint tool for this, wasn't there? I've got this GH thing here, but it doesn't actually let me like lint a workflow or anything useful like that. So you just have to check it in to work out whether it's broken or not, which is extremely frustrating. Okay, where was our using output needs dot blah? What else? Oh my golly, is that it? It's that thing there. I've got like a horrible extraneous paren on the end of that. We'll give it a go. That's a ridiculous anti-pattern of check in to see if it works. Oh, right, okay, we've got to the point where it's parsing it at least. Oh, that's front end. No, I don't want that one. I want this one. Job deploy depends on unknown job build dist. Aha! Well, we're getting there. Progress. for some definition of progress. Because I just renamed it, of course, to be build_dist, because that made sense to me at the time. Git commit. Let's just add an A in there, and just we can make this as painless as possible for what is an annoyingly painful setup. 2480. Is that it? Yes. Why is... Oh, because I didn't make build this not depend on test. Oh, that was the whole point of this, is of course that this no longer needs test. Oh, for GitHub Actions not being quite so frustrating. So I might as well cancel that and save the planet's resources. Okay, 2483. There we are. Build dist 0 seconds. This check was skipped, and you were skipped because event name equals push. What? Push and pull request. Okay, so there must be another one of these that's push. Compiler Explorer. No. 2481. Yes. No, that's one that can be cancelled. Somewhere in here. I probably need another if, don't I? If this one is a push, did I get that? Yeah, I did. I did inherit that one. Okay, that's cool. 2483. Oh, well, I might as well cancel you because you're not the right one. I want to see Compiler Explorer workflows. There it is. Test and build dist are running together in beautiful harmony. Okay, so that plate is still spinning. Let's go back to our other plate and have a look at what the heck the compiler discovery did. Okay, so that took 2 minutes and 1 second, which is suspicious if you ask me, which you didn't. And so this definitely took some time, which it shouldn't have done. Yeah, Luca, I'm not sure about that. I think that was more because I have a push and a pull request, and there's an argument for either of them, but come on, silly thing. Okay, well, I'm going to try running this compiler discovery again. Actually, no, I'm going to look on the machine, the compiler discovery machine, CA runner status. Is it now stopped? It is. Okay, C runner start. I need to get myself a new spine. This one is broken. Drum roll, come on. There is one benefit of the runner. It does start up very quickly compared to the GitHub agents that we use, which take a while. CE runner login. Home CE. Okay, du minus sh compiler cache. 62 meg. So in theory, we have 1024 meg of cache. So it's not like what I was checking here was, have I sized this incorrectly? Is that the part of the problem? And it appears not. Well, this is strictly a win. Whichever way you look at it, my discovery process is now considerably faster than it was before, even if it's still not like the instant I was expecting it to be, which is a problem for another day, maybe. So let's run compiler discovery again and just see how that goes. Compiler discovery. Hello, run, and we can think about, if it becomes cheap enough, we'll just do it on all check-ins. But the problem we have with that is that we can only run one of these at a time because we only have exactly one runner environment and one runner machine. So that's one of the reasons that a GitHub Actions thing would be slightly better. So 2473, in you go, run workflow, we'll let you do your thing, and we'll see how long that one takes. But 2 minutes is obviously less than 19 minutes, which is considerably quality of life improvement that I was looking for, provided it's not broken. Okay, so there our test took 3 minutes, which is surprising. Building dist. So it took... I'm sort of suspicious of the fact that our cache took 51 seconds. Half a gig of cache is a suspiciously large amount of time. Okay, and then... no, not Windows. Bugger off. Hopefully, this one here. Deploy. Hosted runner. Is that hosted? That's not hosted. Or is it? That's not ours, is it? No. Getting myself confused. So Luca asks, what exactly is it doing apart from reading a JSON? Yeah, that's a GitHub one, right? But so Luca, when you say, what is the it you refer to apart from reading a JSON? Do you mean the compiler discovery? It is statting all of the compilers to get their modification time so that we know that they haven't actually changed on disk. Oh, well, that was close. Because I have to do npm install, I bet. I wonder if I can just use npx there. Bloody everything. Okay. npm runs, blah, 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 blah. Do I have a sentry in my package.json? I forget how this works. Sentry is an np. Oh, that is an npx. So what in tarnation is going on there? Why is it not working? You are here. Oh, it's got an empty string there, which is probably not a good idea. The following package was not found and will be installed, blah. And then it says invalid name for version. Okay, so it is actually running the right thing. Okay, I misinterpreted the command. That means that build dist outputs.release name. I mean, who would have thought that that thing I just picked up off the internet didn't work? I probably have to declare it as an output somehow, don't I? Using outputs, yeah, blah, yeah, that's what I have to do. Knobs. Sorry, excuse my swearing here. So up here, after build dist here, we're going to say runs on outputs, yada, 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 yada. Okay, runs on outputs. And this is going to be build monkey, not build monkey, build release name. Release name is going to be steps dot build dist dot outputs dot release name. I am pretty sure. Yeah, it did stop. Yeah, the stat is the stat, especially to NFS, doesn't work very well in parallel, and there's got to be better ways of doing it than that too. But 2 minutes is still better than. Oh, I'm on the wrong machine here. What I do just here? I just said yeah. And this is declare output dependency, and this is all going to be merged anyway. Oh, didn't see. Oh, and don't do the tests, as it really won't help us here. Love it. Okay, not you, the other one, and back to there. Yeah, of course, not that one. We want to actually find the one that's got the name. The name and the compiler explorer thing there. Not the pull request name, because the pull request name won't do it, which is probably unwise. Okay, so the problem is that this is in the deploy step. Okay, coming back over to our compiler discovery here. Are we wedged waiting to start the runner again? We are. Something is up with that. and I don't know what. So that is a mystery. And so decisions revolve around, do we want to use this runner, continue to use this runner, which means a persistent thing, and debug this, which has merit because this is our existing process, or do we want to use the regular GitHub actions that we use for our compilers to do this work, divorce it from our deployment system completely, which means we have to check out a git tag, I suppose. Yeah, that's the trick there, is not knowing the git tag. It has to be passed in, and then it would have to check it out. Yeah, no, NFS is wholly and awfully not set up for this. So Luca's making some comments about the command to get every file that changed since sometime. No, not at all, unfortunately. Almost everything that we are suffering from here is the fact that we are using a network file system for something which perhaps shouldn't have ever been a network file system. And we keep trying to come up with more creative solutions to the problem of, what if you have quite a few compilers and you want to share them across lots of machines? So, for example, let me define quite a few compilers. If I can find the actual EFS drive, there it is. Okay, yeah. So, no, not free. What do I mean? It is mount somewhere in here. Oh, darn it. How am I going to get this? There we are. That's what I meant to do. So somewhere in here, yeah, we have 1.3 terabytes of compilers mounted as a network drive, so that when our instances start up, they have access to 1.3 terabytes of compilers straight away. It just means that it takes a while to access them, which is the sort of trade-off. Now, we've tried to come up with better solutions to this, and every time we draw a blank, I'd love to spend a lot of time developing a much more clever read-only file system. There's some block file system stuff that we could do, but that's not where we are. We could use a not EFS NFS. It's just EFS is Amazon's managed file system that looks like an NFS drive, but it's just sort of magic behind the scenes. I'm going to rerun this. I want to know whether or not it's just every other time or every time, because this was working before. The only thing that's changed is that I logged into the runner manually and made some changes to the environment, but not very much. And now it looks like it isn't starting properly. Start runner, it says, and if I go onto the back end, excuse me, that's fine. Instances, CE runner is running now, it says, and it's initializing. So now it is starting up. So that sounds like has been asked to do its thing, which means that this will now take, hopefully, a minute, not 3 minutes. There we go. That's what I was expecting to see the first time. Now it's going to do this discovery, and like you say, Luca, this might take a couple of minutes, might not. If we log into the runner while it's going, in fact, let me make sure I've got 1,000 shells open now. Yeah, that one was one. Okay, yeah, CE runner login. So apparently, oh, it's already finished, and now we're about to be, yeah, we got kicked out. Okay, so apparently it was fast this time. Who knows? Something odd went on there. Maybe something wasn't quite cached the way I thought it was, or some other command line flag or environment variable was not set the way that it ought to have been. But we did the compiler discovery. It took 28 seconds, and this is how it really ought to be. Compiler discovery, 1 minute 24. That is reasonable to me. Like, that's so reasonable that I'd like to make it automatable and then run it on every branch check-in or something like that. Deploy. So I think we can tick the box for that as like, partial victory. Hooray. To finish out this session, I'd like to get this working. And why did you fail? The user provided path out disbin does not exist. Okay, so that unpack did not in fact work, which is a sadness. So let's back to the drawing board. Out dist bin. Download the built distribution with name dist. Name dist path out dist bin. Do I need to put a path on that as well? It seems like I shouldn't have to, like you were saying, Luca. Download artifact GitHub Actions. Yes. Hello. What's new? Download to the current working directory. Knobs. Okay. Well, I'm gonna take it at its word and copy paste in the out dist bin to there. I am not now sure that the npm cache is going to be helpful to us here. It took however long to grab. It's also the case that the actions cache is probably out of date. Is there some other thing that we can do here? Cache size limit to 10 gig. Bloody hellfire. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to look at that now. Stop picking up weeds. So npx install might be, what does it do? It does tag in Sentry, npx, and was not found and will be installed. So that's the only thing that benefits from having the cache, which took 1 minute 19. So I think we're going to say goodbye cache. Yeah, and setting up the node version here is irritating because it's now duplicated in 3 places. Blech. Build dist needs a cache. I can imagine that needing a cache, maybe. Deploy, not so much. We'll go with that for now. I don't know that that's beneficial. That's not a word. Beneficial. Maybe they're fighting with each other even. These two caches now. I don't know. All right, I'm leaving it. Too many things at once. Back to the status, git diff, path, yep, we're good to go. Things, oh dear, it's getting to that stage of the day already. Okay, and I've seen some clever people have been putting chat things in. Artifacts, yeah. So you try and download all artifacts. I see, yeah, that could easily be the case too. We're going to give this a go and see what happens, and then I think I will be ending this stream so that I can stand up and stretch my legs a bit. And test and build distribute. No, we want the one that says things, obviously, but not the front end testing one. We want the compiler explorer one here. Oh, the excitement. I know you can barely contain yourselves. I mean, there is something deeply wrong with the world when you look at this and you find that that admittedly not small project, but a project has 578 megabytes of node modules, which are text files for the most part. I guess they just build up. I was thinking, like, where the heck is this coming from? I mean, 73 meg for the AWS. Oh! What up? No, that's next door, dog. Oh, give me the scare of my life. Node modules were a mistake. Yeah, but then the alternative to node modules is the C++ situation of, well, good luck trying to use someone else's project. I know there's a sliding scale between left pad and write everything yourself because it's easier than trying to use someone else's code. The lag here means that Luca's comedy timing was unfortunately missed, but Luca said node modules were a mistake, and then not having node modules would also be a mistake, which kind of echoes what I just said. Okay, come on over here. And then, so my plan for this afternoon post-lunch, and I don't know if I will continue streaming because it's fairly exhausting, talking at the same time and trying to not say and too much. My plan for this afternoon is to try and understand if I can get rid of this weird runner environment and setup and have the GitHub Actions runner that we run ourselves start up and run this process. That will mean a slight change to the way we do caching. And then there is a long-standing PR, or there was a long-standing PR, to introduce a whole caching system that was only using Redis. And if we use Redis, then potentially I can move the thing to Redis, and we can actually then just run non-compiler discovery, compiler explorer, or fall back to it at least, if the files are not there, which has a certain appeal. So I might look into that too. Those are much more pace around the room and think stuff rather than the busy work that I'm doing here. So hopefully anyway, I'll be able to put most of this stuff to rest this afternoon. I'm just going to look at my notes. I did actually make some notes for this. There are some things in the way we do execution that would be good to change as well. At the moment, we limit the number of things we execute, and this plugs into what you were saying, Luca. We have a sort of slightly decentralized way of managing the maximum number of processes that we can run at the same time. It would be good to unify them, and then we could teach them a thing or two about how much RAM we're expecting to use, and is it JVM or not, and then I can limit the number of those that run at once, for example. That would be a good thing to do. And then also we could use that across the board, and then nobody can escape the process execution limits that we want to set. At the moment, there are a few backdoors and various bits of code sometimes just exec stuff, a bit like the very initial mtime null bug thing that we saw. That kind of issue is one that that might still be befalling us. That we've got like other code that runs things that like the code that runs the linters and the formatters at startup also execs them at startup and kind of doesn't use any caching at all. But there are so few of them, it doesn't matter, for some definition of doesn't matter. So yeah, there's definitely some thoughts about that, and there's still a lingering worry at the back of my mind that we actually do have a problem still, that running too many Javas at once, for example, can take down the system, and maybe the execution stuff will fix that, as it were. Oh, and we might just be here. You might be here for the moment. Meanwhile, I don't know, those of you who have been here for most of the time. Oh, here we go. Lucas demonstrating some great classics of stuffs of left pad and whatever. But yeah, those who are long enough to see me use the doodad, the I'm on a break window, which I'll just bring back up again now. That extremely high-tech thing was created by the virtual BBC Micro, which while we're waiting for, I'm going to bring up here to show in its glory. It's just amazing what you can do in a web browser. So this is 3JS, and like there would have been a time in my life where I would have been delighted to have a console that would run as well as this does. You know, it's full 3D environment with all of the beautiful reflection mapping that's going on here, and like if we zoom in on the bump mapping on this thing here, and there's lights everywhere, and if I were to actually run a game, hang on, if I get the right key. Oh, and this works! Hooray! Alright, so like if I were to zoom in over here, you can actually see like there's all the pixels and the sub-pixel problems that you get. Like it's amazing that you can do this in a browser while you're running an emulator, all written in JavaScript. There's not any kind of crazy web nonsense going on here. whatever the native web thing. It's just running in a browser. Anyway, okay, that was what that was, and that covered it for us time. We have a test, we have a build step, we have a deploy. To bring this all together, I am going to merge this, do a full deploy, and then we'll finish there. So you can see the whole process of how a compiler explorer update goes and why having 20 minutes previously would have been a pain in the unmentionables. So I'm going to quickly look at the pull requests over here. Luca asked if that's using my path tracer. Unfortunately, no. The path tracer is catastrophically slow on purpose, sort of. Test and build distribution simultaneously. Okay, so we know that the overall changes to this were relatively slight. We've got some formatting changes. We've got build dist, which probably doesn't need the underscore now, but I'm not going to change it again now. Build dist, we've got deploy, and we set our output name there, which presumably worked. Otherwise it would have complained at us. Excellent. Okay, that looks good. I can't review my own change. Sorry, habit. This is no longer a draft. It's ready for review, and it's perfect. Everything about it there's nothing wrong at all. So squash and merge, and then I can clear up some of these things here that are unnecessary. So nobody need know in this particular case that I made a terrible mistake or two. So now we have a new version of the code building. So this is really an actual main. So when this thing finishes, test and build distribution simultaneously, this 2488, this build will be one we can push to production. And so I do need to take a very quick bio break. Too much information. But then we'll return and you can see how this goes to production. We'll not skip any steps. This takes only 3 or 4 minutes, as you say, and that's just all I'll be. So I'll be back in a second. And I'm back. Okie dokie. Still waiting for this to finish, but let's have a look at the 2488 one here. So lots of things are better here. We've made the actual build process faster, we hope, because we've got the test and the distribution building in parallel, which can only be a good thing. Once that's done, we'll get a deployable artifact. That will give us the version GH2488. Might as well steal right now. In the sister project, Infra, which is kind of, again, just another sort of usability issue. Over here in Infra, we have a different action, which is the compiler discovery, which we're going to run with GH-2488, which I can't run yet because it hasn't finished. And obviously, if we can put all these things together, then potentially that whole compiler discovery can happen automatically with the current version. And then we never need to know that it's there. It just happens as part of like the deploy, which would be nice. And then we can still run that deployment daily. And there is a school opposite my house, by the way. If you can hear screaming children, it is that, not the torture dungeon that I don't have. All right. Deploy is going. It's exciting. Come on. I don't know, all these other open source projects using GitHub's resources. How dare they? And I've only just noticed that Jake Marsden noticed that I had an extra closing brace a while back. I'm so sorry, I got lost in my chat window. Oh, apologies for that. But come on, a minute. No, it had finished. It was more of a UI problem. Okay, cool. So this is now the meat of it. We would now run this thing here again. Be lovely if this happened automatically, which it hopefully will do soon. And we've got our 50-50 chance now, it seems, of the start runner not working. But let's hope. Let's hope it worked last time. Do I still have... No, I close my EC2. Let's just get that. I'll switch to this tab. There it is. It's over here. I didn't close it. So if I refresh this, we can see the C runner is initializing. So it did start. Oh, you know, I wonder if two of them are running at once. Seems likely, doesn't it? Yeah, look. Now it's just going. Oh, it worked. Another reason. Hello there, Abhishek. I hope I said your name right, Raturi. Hello, I'm afraid you've come right at the very end of a long stream. I've been going, oh golly, to... no, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30. Yikes. Yeah, okay, quite a while. And I'm still saying far more often than a human ought to. Go, go, gadget. Output. Oh, beautiful. That's what I wanted to see. So now we've done the discovery. Everything is ready to go. You now get to see the wonderful... This is essentially a no-op change, right? If you recall, we didn't actually make any difference, any real changes. But I'm going to log back in. This is the... Whoops. I'm pressing the wrong keys everywhere. This is the administration box that we've been doing our work from. I'm just going to log out some of these terminals. Okay, nice fresh admin terminal. So C builds list. Builds list. So we know that... Oh, that branch is gone. Oh, that... Okay, something didn't work there. So now we've lost which branch these things came from. 2488, 2486. So 2488 is the one that we want to deploy, and it hasn't got a branch. So something did not make it through the change that we just made, which is a shame, because now I have to fix it. And I was hoping that we were finished now. Wah, wah, wah. Yes, day 1 of 5 if all goes to plan, as Lucas says. So you hopefully will see it tomorrow or another time. I'm not sure I'm going to stream literally every time, because I think my wife will strangle me, because it means she can't do anything behind me without feeling like she's on display. And I don't have a green screen. If I had a green screen or a room that isn't like here, then I'd be better off. So let us go and find out where the branch name is being placed into the output. It's nothing to do with Sentry, and it is everything to do with this build dist, which you'd think hadn't been changed. So name branch to set the branch name. What do we do with that? Ah, look, there it is. Dester is there. Ugh. Okay, so this needs to be needs dot that dot branch. Thanks GitHub for not telling me that didn't exist, right? And then another one over here will be branch splat that, please. Whoops. Okay, let's read this carefully. Let's just see if there's anything else in here that's being output. Set name equals branch, name equals release name. And to be honest, I'm going to put those two things together. Branch name and release name. And then let's do them in the order I say them in the comment. Okay. Branch, and then it used to be there. And so let's look for any other outputs. Outputs release name, outputs.branch, outputs. That one's fine. Okay, I think that's all we needed to do. Darn it. Okay, so this is, I'm going to do straight on main, fix branch name in builds. Another push straight to production, and we get to do one more cycle of that, so those who have just joined us get to see the whole thing all over again in its glory. And by glory I don't mean glory, I mean painful slowness, although considerably fasterness, if that's a word, which it isn't. So this is a test and build, and it would be nice to look at what's taking all the time in here, which we can do another time. I'm worried that if I click it, I'll discover something that's easy to fix, and then I'll try and fix it, and then something else will go wrong. Which is kind of the problem, actually. Like some part of the rationale for doing this week is to get some of the things that are just too annoying to make things faster, so I can do faster deployment when I'm working on the trains in the morning. I get like a half an hour of a commute each way, and if things take longer than that, or material longer than maybe 20 minutes, then it's hard to get something done. I have like one day a week where I dedicate 4 or 5 hours to hacking on this as much as I can bring myself to after a long day at work, but it's still hard to get these things done. My original intention, my stated intention for this, was to actually set up a whole bunch of stuff for Amazon. So at the moment, all of the Amazon stuff that you've been seeing, where is it here? No, other window, I'm running out of windows. All of this wonderful AWS setup, as you could see when I clicked on the instances, this has some of my personal stuff in it, right? It's got Minecraft, it's got Xania, Mud, it's got a number of bits and pieces. And these things are sort of problematic because this AWS account, which there are other people who have access to this, there are other administrators, but they have administrative access to essentially my entire AWS account, which is not great. There's some clever ways that you can set it up so that it's less of a problem, and I haven't necessarily done that. So what I would like to do is to move a lot of this stuff to a separate organization account so that I can manage the world as if it was Compile Explorer was an organization and not just a bloke in Chicago doing his best. And then that opens the door to making things more equitable across folks. So at the moment, like the people who have access to this are people I know and trust, like personally. I've met them in person. I work with one of them. So, it doesn't feel so bad. But there are a number of committers who I would like to give access to be able to administrate the site as well, without also requiring them to not look at my personal backups that are here too. So obviously that stuff it's difficult, right? It's difficult to get right, to move a site without breaking it. I think people would be upset if I broke stuff. But to move it to a whole other Amazon account and manage it in a way that makes sense to moving forward for the future. But there's no benefit to people on the internet. Like if you're a user of Compiler Explorer, there's no tangible benefit if I've moved it to out of my personal account into an organizational account. So it's hard to justify spending time on it when it doesn't really improve the world for other people. So I've been struggling with how would I find the time to do that. And so this week was meant to be about that, but I've already distracted myself with lots of these other minor irritations. I mean, obviously, ideally, I'd spend a lot more time on it than a week. But there's only so much time I can take off work, and there's only so much patience I can ask my family to have with me. Here's one of those action runners, right? So something from earlier. These are very beefy machines. So these are the ones that we spawn when our own compiler builds happen. And it's a C5A 8X large, which is like a monster. And that's why our builds don't take all that long. The builds of compilers, that is. This is exactly the thing I want to co-opt to run some of these other checks too. So that should run quickly too. All right, okay, we're nearly there. I'm sort of padding for time here, as you've probably realized. So 2489. Move you over there. And then this compiler job, discovery job. Let's go back to actions, compiler discovery. And I could automate this a lot better, but I'm hoping to make it go away. 2489. Reload the page. Come on, deploy. There it is. Tag. Okay, clicking that one. Yes, hang on a second. People are asking about the Discord. I will create a share link for that. Copy invite. And paste it in the chat there. This is the Discord. It's all right, Luca, I beat you to it. And there you are. You get to see the lag. All right, and while that's going, actually, I can check that we did fix the problem. Sorry, Luca. I am a ninja, yes. So let's list the builds now, and we should now have a version 2489 that has got a name. We do. Fantastic. So that did indeed fix the problem that we had. And the problem really was cosmetic at best, right? It just hasn't got the branch name in it, which is useful. So the way, before I deploy anything, I will always test out the deployment process in our staging environment. So if I go see environment status, so it found an ASG. ASG is an automatic scaling group. And that's what we run Compiler Explorer in. But there's no instances at the moment. This is by default, the CE command line always goes to our staging environment. So I am going to do set it up so that the current build is GH2489. And if we hit, because I've just seen the compiler discovery has finished here, and now I have to cross my fingers and hope that we don't hit another bug that I've got on my list. And if we do, you might hear me swearing. So, yep, staging. All the sort of like, are you sure you're deploying to the right environment stuff. This is the main branch. And if this fails, I will curse quietly. It worked. Okay, there was another issue we had earlier about some deployment things there. So now what we've done is we've uploaded that version, and it is ready to go. This 2489 version is ready to deploy. And if I start anything in our staging environment, then it will pick up that version. So now I've started the staging environment, and we'll go and watch this from the other side. If I refresh this list of instances shortly, we should see that there is an initializing staging instance here. Again, that's probably too small for you to see, but let me zoom in a wee bit. Staging instance here. So that means that our staging environment is coming up. We don't run it all the time because it costs money. And for those who were like eagle-eyed before, where are we? Favorites. Cost Explorer. This includes my personal stuff as well, but it's it costs us about $750 a month, of which my personal stuff's about 60, so it's just under $700 a month for those that are interested in it, which is useful to have support from our patrons and our sponsors. And now I won't get back to EC2. Okay, so staging is still initializing. And in fact, I can ask, what status are my instances in? How many users? What in terms of people using the site? See, I don't really know. That is a problem, right? Because when I say it's a problem, it's a deliberate problem. We don't have much analytics. I know how many compiles we do. So, whoops, that is not a good thing to share, actually. That shows IP addresses. I'm sorry about that. I meant to go to this one. Oh, what? So here is the stats of our compilations running. That's unhealthy. We'll wait for that. So let's have a look. This is 1 day. Each of these is it's 15-minute intervals. Let me show 1 year in 1 week. Don't compare to anything. All right, so a week we're doing 3 million compiles a week. And you can see problem weeks that we had. But yeah, this is how many years can I show of this? This is the longest stats I've got. You can see there's kind of a nice linear growth to it here. So in 2017 we were doing 300,000 a week, and our biggest week ever was 3.3 million compilations. So we've been growing nicely. Yeah, so that's what we do, and so it costs us $700. That's not too bad, really, all things considered. Let's see if this is healthy yet. So the stats that we're seeing here are that this instance is running, the service is running, the load balancer, the enterprise load balancer, of course. No, elastic load balancer. So that's Amazon is calling like an endpoint on our service to say, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? And it's saying, no, not yet. But in a minute, it'll declare that it's healthy if things are going well, although it's taking longer than I would like. And therein lies a sort of problem. Aha, phew, healthy. It's just gone healthy. What that means now is I can hit godbolt.org/staging, and now we are actually hitting that instance. Hooray! And it's running, and we can click around and we can see that like nothing has gone wrong. I wasn't expecting anything to be wrong with this because we haven't changed anything in the actual code, just the build and deploy. But you can see also up here we've got the word staging written across there, so I can remind myself that I'm not on the live site. And this doesn't stay up very much. This is an instance, yes. And you can get cool gear in the Compiler Explorer shop. It is true. Lovely. Okay, everything seems great here. No reason for me not to push to production. So having done that, I'm now going to say save for prod. This is another thing I realize I'm going to have to think about now. 2489. So we separate staging and production because you could potentially have different compilers in them. Maybe we're just going to say that we don't. But that was it. Taking that discovery process and running it in prod. Yeah, it's amazing how cheap these things can be. I think I've worked it out before. It's like something like 25 thousandths of a cent, or no, hundredths of a cent per compile. Someone else can work it out. $700 divided by 3.3 million. Excuse me. All right. So anyway, we've now copied the stuff to production, and now I can do env production builds set current 2489, the version that we just did. So again, lots of these processes I want to make it more streamlined, but only as streamlined as it has to be to not make it too easy to take down the site. Okay, so now instead of, all right, first of all, I'm going to stop the staging environment. So anyone who's visiting it now, it's no longer there. Staging. And now, because it's the middle of the day and it's the work day, I will do a very gradual rollout of this to production. So I'm going to say in production, the environment refresh. And this will take probably an hour to do, which is another problem, but for another day. So right now we're starting a refresh, and it will periodically give some some progress telling me what all's going on. And so we have 6 instances that need to be updated. And if I refresh this over here, this list of running things, staging is still running, even though I told it to stop. So that'll come down eventually. And in production, we'll start seeing these things rolling out. In fact, we can see the other side of this refresh if I can remember where it is in the UI. I'm so used to using my command line tools. Auto scaling groups, is that the right one? Prod, yep. And then instance refresh. Yeah, I remembered where it was. So this is the same information. We're using the same API. And so what this is gradually doing is it is taking each instance out of service. It is restarting that instance, which will pick up the new version of the code, and then it's waiting for it to become healthy, and then it's putting it back into service. Now, This is a gradual rolling restart, which is great. The issues we have here are that each instance might have a slightly different idea about the world, like especially when we have actually done an update, a genuine update, like where something changed that was user-facing. It's possible that people might start caching mixed versions of like, hey, I went to the site and I got an old version and I got this thing down, and then I posted to the endpoint and I hit a different version of the code. So we have yet to solve that problem. The typical way of doing that is to actually have two separate instance groups, like a blue and green. That's like called blue-green deploy. And what we do is bring up a whole new copy of the site in like a temporary holding pattern, and then switch them at the end, and kind of just ping pong between those two sort of double buffer sets of machines. And then there's just like a one stroke where we say, well, we have 6 healthy machines ready to go. Let's just point the load balancer at those 6 instead of the previous 6, and then we can decommission the old 6. And that's something else to do. Okay. Well, I'm not going to sit and watch this go because it's going to take a very long time. It is nearly midday, and I've got to take my dog to my friend's house and have my lunch, and I will be back after. I don't know if I'll stream. My kids will be home from school in a few hours, and that will make life significantly more noisy. But I will try and do at least another few streams, and I'll post them, as Luca has said, on the Discord, which you can go to in the chat there, or if you go to Compiler Explorer's own GitHub page, I think we have a link somewhere. Oh, that's the top level one. Here, somewhere in the README. Oh, golly. Somewhere in here, if we search for Discord. Yep, there is a link there. Okay, so you can join us there. There's all sorts of ways of contacting the site. So thank you for staying with me through this time. Thank you all for your company while I've been hacking around. You get to see kind of very much a warts and all version of what the heck goes on when I'm developing Compiler Explorer. So there was a lot of dead ends that we went down, and bugs that we found, and bugs that we introduced. But I will continue on this afternoon, and if you have any further comments or anything, don't hesitate to contact me on Twitter or Discord or whatever. And of course, if you want to know when I'm doing this, you can subscribe to the channel, but you know all those things, so I'm not going to go over those. All right, everyone, thank you very much. Now I have to find the buttons to end the stream.